Chapter 5208. Father, you've heard clearly. Qin Hong coldly stared at his son and said after a while, although Jingfeng acted on his own initiative, this matter doesn't affect our Tianyun at all. How can it not affect us, father? Eldest young Sir Qin blinked and said, this Mu Jingfeng acted on his own initiative and dragged Zhaoguang's men to the Little Stoic. Do you know? The Little Stoic has already guessed that Zhaoguang is one of our people. Impossible. How is it impossible, father? Eldest young Sir Qin rolled his eyes. He truly didn't want to ridicule his old father's stupidity. The Little Stoic is very quick-witted. Do you think she doesn't know anything? As long as you reveal even the tiniest bit in front of her, she'll immediately know. She'll be able to follow the clues to find out everything. Qin Hong was rather disapproving of his son's high praise. He coldly glanced at Mu Jingfeng before shifting his gaze to eldest young Sir Omega Kotoku. What do you want to say? Mu Jingfeng acted on his own initiative to avenge a personal grudge and used the organization to do things, causing Zhaoguang to be exposed in front of others. Father, I hope you can punish this person immediately. Punish? Mu Jingfeng panicked on the spot and hastily waved his hands, shouting repeatedly, and no way. Master, you can't punish me. I sincerely work myself to the bone for the organization. I absolutely don't have any other intentions. Father. Eldest young Sir Qin chuckled and said, you're right to punish him. This Mu Jingfeng can't accomplish anything and is good at spoiling things. I feel that there's really not much use in keeping him. And no, I have uses. Mu Jingfeng hastily crawled forward and prostrated himself on the ground, repeatedly kowtowing to Qin Hong. Master, spare my life. Master, spare my life. I won't dare to act on my own initiative in the future. I will listen to everything, obey Master's orders. Qin Hong grunted and nodded faintly. Mu Jingfeng can't die for the time being. I still have some use for him. Eldest young Sir Omega Kotoku's gaze instantly turned frosty. Oh, is it to deal with her again? Family head Qin flew into a rage on the spot and slapped the armrest heavily. The armrest of a good sandalwood stool was immediately smashed into ashes, raising a cloud of dust that fell to the ground. I don't need you to meddle in my business, Family head Qin said angrily. You two brothers should mind your own business. As for my future arrangements, you don't need to care about them, Qin Yi said coldly. Don't forget that I'm now in charge of the Hidden Moon Hall. Mu Jingfeng is my subordinate. If you want to beat or kill him, you have to leave it to me. Omega Kotoku smiled coldly. Is that so? Seeing that the father and son were about to quarrel again, eldest young master smiled and waved his fan, saying, all right, as a son, it is inconvenient for me to interfere in my father's matters. Second brother, don't be so stubborn. Let's go first. As an old father, he also wanted face. Of course, he would protect Mu Jingfeng no matter what, lest he lose face in front of his two sons. As for this Mu Jingfeng, he could still quietly deal with him the next day. There was no need for him to have a direct conflict with his father at this time and put both parties in an awkward position. Second young master coldly glanced at Mu Jingfeng. With just one glance, Mu Jingfeng's entire body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Second young master's gaze was as cold as a venomous snake, making him feel guilty and afraid. Chapter 5209. He had a nagging feeling that this second young master, who was as gloomy as a ghost, would not let him have an easy time in the future. He wondered if it was just his imagination. Eldest young master was very good-natured, however. He beamed at Mu Jingfeng and glanced at the subordinate beside her. What? Why are you still in a daze? Hurry and help family head Mu up. That subordinate hastily stepped forward and was about to reach out to help Mu Jingfeng up, but Mu Jingfeng kept dodging him. He could not trust anyone now and was unwilling to let anyone near him. He glanced at Qin Hong with some trepidation. At a time like this, only family head Qin could save his life, so he had to firmly cling onto family head Qin's thigh. Qin Hong swept him a glance and waved his hand. Take him away. Mu Jingfeng still wanted to brush off other people's hands, but he dropped the idea under family head Qin's glare. His entire body was carried away listlessly, and he resented Crown Prince Mo for ruining his legs again. If not for that good son-in-law of his, would he have fallen to such a miserable state today? Jinghong, you're begging me, family head Qin said coldly. When do you plan on letting Qingya go? Young Master Omega Kotoku did not utter a word and turned to leave. Family head Qin was so angry that his eyes turned vertical as he loudly rebuked, "Stop right there!" However, young Master Omega Kotoku did not seem to hear him and left without even looking back, leaving behind family head Qin, who was angrily clutching the armrest on the other side. The armrest turned into ashes once again in this family head's hands. Eldest young Master Qin giggled and waved his hand. Since there's nothing else, this son will take his leave first. Eldest, wait! Family head Qin bellowed. This son of hers, one after another, always made her worry. Eldest young Master Qin turned back to look at him in shock and asked in confusion, "Does father have any other instructions?" Recently, our underground base has been heavily raided by the Crown Prince of China. Have you thought of any countermeasures to deal with it? Eldest young Master Qin tapped his head with his small golden fan. This son hasn't thought of anything yet. This son will think about it later and inform father. Qin Yi's hands trembled with anger. Yes, father. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. After saying this, eldest young Sir Qin hurriedly slipped away. What kind of joke was this? Was this something he could come up with? Why is he oppressing his son instead of looking for a solution to the problem that the elder ancestor entrusted to his father? He really shouldn't have done that. When eldest young master stepped out of the ruined temple, two people flashed to his side and bowed. The two beautiful men secretly glanced at the eldest young master's expression and asked softly, "Young master, go find someone to deal with him." "Today?" Hong Yi asked with a smile. "Could it be that you want to wait until we return to the headquarters?" What a pitiful man. How did he offend our eldest young master? Hong Yi shook her head. "Don't worry, young master. I will give you good news in the next 2 days." "Wait!" Eldest young Sir Qin suddenly called out to Red Coat, who was about to leave. "Who is that?" Following eldest young Master Qin's finger, Hong Yi frowned and said with a laugh, "Oh, that person seems to be the Gu family's young Master Gu. Young master doesn't recognize him? You've met him during past experiential training or banquets." Chapter 52:10. How could I possibly know that kind of idler? Eldest young Sir Qin rolled his eyes irritably. What Gu family's young master? How could someone from that kind of second-rate patrician family enter eldest young Sir Qin's eyes? Hong Yi couldn't resist twitching his mouth, and he nodded exasperatedly. Yes. Eldest young sir, what kind of person are you? How could you possibly remember that kind of young master from a last-rate patrician family? Of course, there's no need to remember him. Eldest young Sir Qin hummed in response and swept that person a glance. What did he come here for? Hong Yi and Qing Xing looked at each other before replying in unison. This subordinate will go investigate right away. These people were really worried about him. They always waited for him to give them instructions before they knew how to act, and they never said they wanted to act before him. Don't you think it's hateful? When Emolien returned at night, Arbor recounted the interrogation of Yuan Maui to Emolien. It's indeed hateful. Emolien nodded. If Zhaoguang belongs to the Heavenly Fate Society, then this matter is very clear. They want to use Zhaoguang to make a name for themselves and then swindle some people into joining. In the end, they can openly use these people as medicinal primers and test subjects. Arbor nodded. I also think so. The little stoic gnashed her teeth. They're truly incomparably hateful. They always act as they please. These people use the banner of resisting the Heavenly Fate Society, but they're actually big liars. If we can deal with them, dealing with them is only a trivial matter. Emolien said after pondering for a moment. The most important thing is to expose this organization's true colors to the world. Jojo, although you don't care what outsiders say about you, I don't care about you. But I don't like them splashing dirty water on you. I hope that everyone can understand that this Xiaoguang is the Heavenly Fate Society's subsidiary organization. Its existence is to deceive everyone. Emolien grasped the little fellow's hand. Don't worry, I'll investigate first. When the time comes, I'll bring people to wipe out their nest in one fell swoop. After all, at present, Xiaoguang still had a very outstanding reputation among the people. If they rashly attacked and killed them, it would seem that their side was unreasonable. If you put all the evidence under the sun, no one will dare to say anything. He didn't like to hear that his wife was fierce and heartless. His wife was the softest person in the world. The little crown princess blinked her eyes and rubbed against him. Emolien lowered her head and touched her belly. She couldn't help but laugh. Jojo, I think you look like a ball now. What? How dare you call little master fat? Chocho suddenly jumped out of the star domain and bounced back and forth on Prince Mo's shoulder. You're done for, Your Highness. Do you know that if you offend my little master, you'll be out of luck? Arbor was speechless. Shut up. Master, Your Highness said you're fat. Chocho turned his head and cried out pitifully. I'm reprimanding him for you. Emolien couldn't help but be amused and annoyed. She reached out and poked Chocho. What do you know? I haven't finished speaking. I wanted to say that even if my wife turns into a ball, she'll still be the cutest ball in the world. Humph. Chocho made a face at him and pretended to be serious. Sweet words. Master, let Chocho tell you, a man's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. You have to be careful. When a man says sweet words, nothing good will come out of it. Chapter 52:11. Arbor glanced at Emolien. The latter immediately turned merciless and punched Chocho out of the room. He calmly took his wife's hand. Baby, let's not talk to him anymore. Let's rest early. Arbor touched his stomach expressionlessly. The baby is here. Emolien chuckled and kissed her hand. You're the big baby, he's the little baby. Xiao Mu involuntarily twitched her mouth. Don't talk nonsense. Debao is so noisy. I don't want to become like him. What noisy? That's called talking too much. He's here to talk to you. You're so quiet. If Debao doesn't know how to talk, the two of you will be speechless. What's so fun about that? So you want to make a talkative robot, right? Arbor chuckled and allowed this fellow to carry him to the bedside. Prince Mo lowered his head and kissed her cheek. Jojo, what do you think we should name baby Mo? Don't we already have a name? Arbor yawned and wanted to find a comfortable place to lie down. Emolien was stunned. His wife couldn't be planning to name the child baby Mo, right? He was going to die of laughter. Oh yes, I heard that you gave Kong Kong a name. Mo Kong Kong. My mother gave it to him. Emolien. Later on, I felt that it was better to call him Mo Kong. When the child grows up and finds out that his name is Mo Kong Kong, wouldn't he be depressed? Wouldn't baby Mo be depressed then? Our surname Mo can actually be paired with a nicer name. Emolien whispered to his wife. He lowered his head again and was speechless. His wife had fallen asleep in an instant. She had left him alone and quietly fell asleep. What an annoying fellow. She fell asleep after just 3 sentences. He lowered his head and rubbed his face against hers. He pulled her into his embrace and patted her gently. Recently, the little stoic had become more and more sleepy. It must be that the late pregnancy announcement had tired her out. Emolien stroked her face with heartache and pulled up the blanket while she was at it. If Lord Xiao was awake, she would definitely rebuke him. Only your family name can be matched with a better name. Those with the surname Xiao, the surname Duan, and the surname Mu can also match with a better name. What's wrong with baby Mo? Big treasure, little treasure, and baby Mo are compatible. The next day, Arbor turned over and was about to sit up when he was almost scared by someone who was crawling on his bed. The little stoic was skillful and kicked him over in passing, directly kicking that crawling little person 3 meters away. With a loud bang, he slammed the door. Kai Xiu, Kai Chi, and the others who were guarding outside swarmed in. They held their swords and sabers with solemn faces and shouted, "Who is it? Who is it?" Insolent assassin! How dare you trespass into the Eastern Palace? Wah wah wah! Sir Guangguang was sobbing with tears and snot. His entire body was plastered to the back of the door, and he was crying so aggrievedly that his tears were dripping. Arbor glanced at his little leg that was sticking out of the blanket and silently retracted it. He coughed lightly and looked sternly at the child. That kick just now should have been quite heavy, but anyone who opened their eyes and saw a head moving back and forth next to them would have the same reaction, all right? She nimbly kicked out and nimbly retracted her leg, and her movements were incomparably swift. To be honest, she was almost stunned by her own skills. Xiao Mu moved her small mouth and solemnly asked, "How is it? Bring it over for me to see." Chapter 52:12. Master Guangguang pursed his little mouth and cried out pitifully, "What do you mean bring it over for me to see? I'm not an object. What do you mean bring it over? Shouldn't you be carrying it over?" Kai Xiu was speechless and carried the nagging, congealing mirror to Arbor's side. Arbor reached out and touched his bald head. "Aren't you an object? Your congealing mirror, not a human." Congealing mirror's holy spirit angrily stared at her. "Woman, speak more politely to Master Guangguang." Kai Xiu knocked his little bald head. "Speak more respectfully to your elders." What? What elder?" Congealing mirror was so angry that he almost stuttered. He was a damn 10,000 years old congealing mirror. These little brats were all his juniors, but they dared to act as elders in front of him. Master congealing mirror. He was so angry that he wanted to vomit. Arbor laughed and hugged him to his side, touching his bald head again. "What are you doing sneaking around my bed in the middle of the night?" Being asked like this, congealing mirror lowered his head and touched his fingers in embarrassment. "I came to take a look at my stomach." "What?" "Ah, no. I came to take a look at my contractor." Master Guangguang proudly raised his head. "Contractor looks really good. Good looking." Arbor sat up straight and hugged this child to his lap. She understood the meaning of his words and lowered her head to touch her stomach. "Guangguang. Master Guangguang." Congealing mirror shook his head and snorted at Arbor. Arbor speechlessly looked at him. "Master Guangguang, I have a question to ask." Guangguang proudly raised his head. "For the sake of benefactress's good attitude, say it." Xiao Mu gave him a light smack. "Speak properly. Why did benefactress come?" Whenever she heard the words benefactress, her head would hurt. Guangguang also looked depressed, not knowing if it was because he had been spending too much time with that little monk recently. Benefactress heard it and inexplicably called benefactress. "Women, call me auntie." Arbor rudely rubbed his little face. "What?" Guangguang turned pale with fright. "You want me to call you aunt?" Holy shit, he was a 10,000-year level light condensing mirror holy spirit, and he actually had to open his mouth and call this 17-year-old child aunt? You must be joking. Arbor pinched his chubby hand with a serious face. "If you dare to yell again, I'll beat you until you start doubting your life." Lord Guangguang's round face was completely puffed up. "You, woman, you. Pa! Wah! You really hit me." Lord Guangguang cried out miserably. Don't hit me. I just took some time to come and see my contractor. I didn't expect you to have such a big reaction." Xiao Mu stopped and pinched his small face. "Tell me honestly, is this contractor of yours?" She rubbed her stomach. "Baby Mo?" Ever since the incident where the light condensing mirror Holy Spirit entered her conscious and disappeared without a trace, Arbor thought left and right, where did this guy run off to? Thinking back and forth, she could only think of running off to Treasure Mo's conscious. There was no other reason. This light condensing mirror was like a weird uncle all day long, staring at her stomach when he had nothing to do. It was too obvious. Light condensing mirror vigorously nodded his big head. Chapter 52:13. This fellow revealed a wretched smile and chuckled. "Baby Mo is much more powerful than all of you. In the future, I must support him and let him walk on a bright path." Ha 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 ha. Xiao Mu seized the opportunity to rub his bald head. "All right, don't daydream all day long. It's hard to say who will support who." She felt that this little baby in her belly should be quite powerful. Perhaps he did not need anyone's support. This fellow, Condensing Mirror, might be overconfident. Hearing her words, Condensing Mirror pursed his lips unhappily. Don't underestimate me, woman. Call me Auntie. Arbor patted him again. I'll hit you. Condensing Mirror was furious. Auntie, your sister. He is a 10,000-year-old Condensing Mirror. Does he have no shame? When baby Mo comes out, I will have a helper. Condensing Mirror's Holy Spirit said the words in his heart. Is that so? Arbor raised her brows slightly. Are you sure baby Mo will come out to help you and not mother? Humph. Lord Guangguang turned his little head and hopped off the bed with his 2 short legs. I can't be bothered to talk to you anymore. You will know when baby Mo comes out. Ha 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 ha. My little master must be the best in this world. Crown Princess, do you want this subordinate to beat him up? Kai Chi rolled up her sleeves and turned to ask the little Crown Princess. This fellow was seriously asking for a beating. Every time she saw him with his hands on his hips and his little belly sticking out and laughing wildly, she could not help but want to beat him up. The little Crown Princess silently twitched the corner of her mouth. She shook her head and waved her hand. Forget it. Let him play on his own. Oh, right. Have you sent that batch of people over? Yes. Kai Chi nodded. With our people watching over them, I think they will not dare to be impudent. How long does the Crown Princess intend to let them dig in Chess Mountain's spirit mine? Dig for how long? Arbor was stunned. It depends on the situation. This group of people would first be imprisoned in the Chi Mountain spirit mine. When the time came for the Bright Light organization to fall, all of them would be dealt with. Jojo's Ren has been busy this morning? Yes, Crown Princess. Kaixio smiled and reached out to help her up. Then she went forward to wash up. Is there any movement in the city today? Yesterday, it was said that the second miss of Count of Huainan's mansion sneaked back from Tsiyu Nunnery and was kicked out by the first madam. That second miss has stayed in Tsiyu Nunnery for 3 months. Hasn't she? Arbor was slightly stunned as he shook his head with a smile. Yes. Isn't that so? Kai Chi answered with a smile. Madam of Count Huainan said that second miss didn't know the rules and ran out of Tsiyu Nunnery without permission, so she punished her by kneeling at the gate. The little Crown Princess's hand that was holding the towel paused. Ah, you're still kneeling at the gate? She's kneeling. Kai Chi smiled. It seems that the first madam really dislikes her. How could she be disliked? The poison in her body was finally cured. Naturally, she would take some measures to deal with Madame Bao and her daughter. Moreover, His Majesty's imperial edict happened to be here. The first madam was a smart person and naturally knew how to deal with that concubine's daughter. But His Majesty's edict is to let Feng Mingyue go to Tsiyu Nunnery to cultivate for half a month. Right? Kai Chi covered her mouth and smiled. But His Majesty added that if she can't learn the rules and wash away her hostility, she's not allowed to return to the capital. Chapter 52:14. Now, the Countess of Huainan insists on saying that second Miss Feng is full of evil energy and has to continue cultivating in Tsiyu Nunnery. Kaixio couldn't help but laugh. That poor second concubine is also kneeling at the door with her daughter, begging First Madam to open the door. Arbor shook his head. It was indeed amusing. The capital had been silent for so long. Finally, there was something to talk about over tea. Night. The entire capital seemed very lonely under the night wind and cold rain. The ruined temple on the western outskirts, however, was emitting waves of blood-curdling screams. Mu Xiaoxue, who was wearing a white undergarment, was dragged to the ruined temple. She was so scared that her face was pale. Her eyes were darting around, and her hair was standing on end. When she saw the man who was beaten badly and hung on the beam in the ruined temple, Mu Xiaoxue almost fainted. Eldest senior brother? It was Zhao Yi. Zhao Yi was stripped naked and hung on the beam, spinning back and forth in the air. He looked very frightening. The skin on his back had been beaten to a pulp, and there wasn't a single part of him that was intact. Mu Xiaoxue was so frightened that she fell to the ground with a thud. Father, Father. No, she had to go back and find Father. She had to send a message to Father. Yes, she had to send a message to Father. Mu Xiaoxue wasn't so stupid that she couldn't be saved. At least, she remembered that she had to ask Father Mu Jinghong for help in this situation. She didn't know what was going on, but she had a faint premonition. Did eldest senior brother end up like this because he was caught red-handed trying to steal Luo He's Chenkuan reversal talisman? That's why he was hung from the roof beam like this and was beaten black and blue all over. She felt that her guess was very close to the truth, especially when she looked up and saw the gloomy man sitting above. When she recognized him as family head Qin, the bad premonition in her heart became more and more serious. And standing next to family head Qin was a young man with a pale face who looked like a gloomy wind. Who else could it be but Luo He? Since Luo He was here, it meant that Zhao Yi had really tried to steal the talisman. As expected, he had been caught red-handed by Luo He. Mu Xiaoxue waved her hands frantically, trying to clear her name. No, it's not me, it's not me. It has nothing to do with me, eldest senior brother, eldest senior brother. She took out her communication jade talisman and was about to send a message to her father when her elbow was struck by a cold light. Ah! Mu Xiaoxue screamed and felt a sharp pain in her wrist. The communication jade amulet in her hand fell to the ground. A surge of earth elemental energy rushed over and crushed the communication jade amulet on the ground. Mu Xiaoxue slumped to the ground and hurriedly moved her legs backward. She muttered to herself, "It's none of my business. It's none of my business." Mu Xiaoxue. Qin Hong's cold eyes scanned her face and stared at her thoughtfully. Seeing this, Luo He stepped forward and bowed. He said in a low voice, "Master, Miss Mu Xiaoxue is Mu Qingya, Hall Master Mu's daughter." "I see." Only then did Qin Hong's expression soften. He nodded with a smile. "So she's Hall Master Mu's daughter. Then we're family." Hearing this, Mu Xiaoxue hurriedly nodded and said, Yes, I am Tianyun's daughter. We are family." Chapter 52:15. Mu Xiaoxue cried out, Yes, Ma Patriarch. We're family, we're family." "I haven't seen you much before," Qin Hong said with a smile. Luo He gave a fake smile. "That's because Hall Master Mu is very protective of his daughter. Patriarch, Hall Master Mu, and City Lord Mu all value this daughter very much." "Oh, so she's Jinghong and Qingya's child. No wonder you look so good." Ha ha ha. Seeing this, Qin Hong put on a caring face and nodded at Mu Xiaoxue. At this moment, Mu Xiaoxue was so scared that her soul almost left her body. However, family head Qin was smiling kindly at her, so she had no choice but to stiffly force a smile. She got up and knelt down, kowtowing to Patriarch Qin. Mu Xiaoxue said softly, "Xiaoxue. Xiaoxue doesn't know. Why did Patriarch bring Xiaoxue here in the middle of the night? You really don't know?" Luo He smiled sinisterly. That smile almost made Mu Xiaoxue's heart stop beating. "Your good senior brother Zhao Yi came to my room in the middle of the night, wanting to steal the universe reversal charm. He confessed everything. It was all your doing." "What?" Mu Xiaoxue had already calmed down by now. Putting on a puzzled expression, she wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes like a little white flower and said in a sobbing tone, "Grandmaster Luo, family head Qin, please don't listen to senior brother's nonsense. I never told him to steal anything. That charm, I've never heard of or seen it before. Why would I tell senior brother to steal it?" Zhao Yi, who was hanging from the beam, naturally heard little junior sister's words. He hurriedly shook his body. He was puzzled. Why would little junior sister say such a thing? Was he thinking too much when she was so eager to distance herself from this? "Oh, you didn't?" Qin Hong put on a loving smile and chuckled. "But your good senior brother has already confessed to us. It's because of you that he stole the universe reversal talisman. You've never heard of the heaven and earth reversal charm?" Qin Hong chuckled at him. "I don't think so. This universe reversal talisman is most effective on ordinary people like you." Mu Xiaoxue could not help but bite her lower lip when she heard the words ordinary people. She hated it when people called her an ordinary person. An ordinary person. She was an ordinary person. She was born an ordinary person. Moreover, she was an ordinary person who had no hope of ever becoming an ordinary person. Patriarch Qin. Mu Xiaoxue wiped her tears and cried, I really didn't ask senior brother to steal. Qin Hong waved his hand at her, indicating for her to continue listening. This heaven and earth reverse talisman can steal a cultivator's luck and fortune. It is indeed a good talisman. Whereas in our talisman hall, we've only successfully drawn one in all these years. TSK, don't you think it's precious and top-notch? Mu Xiaoshua's eyes lit up, and she almost could not control the desire in her heart. There really was. The talisman hall really had the heaven and earth reverse talisman. That belonged to her, Mu Xiaoxue. If Xiaoxue had this talisman, she would definitely be able to defy the heavens and change her fate for the rest of her life. She was going to rise. Mu Xiaoxue clenched her jade-like hand in excitement. Her entire body could not help but tremble slightly. Heaven and earth reverse talisman. Chapter 52:16. She wanted it. She wanted this Chengquan reversal charm. Qin Hong was best at reading people's expressions. Now that he glanced at Mu Xiaoxue, he knew what she was thinking. Qin Hong couldn't help but laugh. This Mu Xiaoxue's expression was very greedy. She was just an ordinary ant, yet she dared to put on such a front in front of him. It was really interesting. Luo he stuck out his pale tongue and licked the corner of his mouth. He smiled sinisterly. It seems that Miss Mu is really interested in this charm. She was interested, of course she was interested. She was so interested that she was about to die. Mu Xiaoxue quickly restrained her expression. Thinking of the current situation, she shook her head and pretended to be pitiful. No, I didn't ask senior brother to steal it. Believe me, this really has nothing to do with me. Is that so? At this moment, Zhao Yi, who was hanging above, really heard Mu Xiaoshue's excuses clearly. Mu Xiaoxue wanted to push the blame to him again and again. Even if Zhao Yi was a fool, he finally understood what was going on. Mu Xiaoxue wanted him to take the blame alone and didn't care about his life at all. Junior sister, how can you do this? Zhao Yi roared, but a whip lashed out at his legs, causing him to howl in pain. Mu Xiaoxue was so scared that her face turned pale. She clutched her chest with both hands and cried softly and pitifully, Senior brother, don't accuse me wrongly. I know you want to drag me down with you. You want to attract my father's help. But at this time, father won't come to help me. Useless man. You can't even steal a charm. Don't drag me down with you if you want to die. Mu Xiaoxue roared angrily in her heart. But on the surface, she pretended to be scared. Zhao Yi was so angry that he kept swinging his legs, his body swinging back and forth in the air. Mu Xiaoxue, how dare you treat me like this, Mu Xiaoxue? Who am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? Mu Xiaoxue gritted her teeth in anger. This stinky man, if he was really doing this for her, he wouldn't have betrayed her when he was in trouble. This useless stinky man still wanted to drag her down with him. She was not going to die with him. As long as she refused to admit it, even family head Qin and Great Master Luo would have to be reasonable. She was the biological daughter of Hall Master Mu and City Master Mu. Before killing her, they should at least consider their father and mother first, right? As Mu Xiaoxue thought about it, she felt as if she had taken a calming pill. She calmly knelt there and said obediently, Master Luo, I was really wronged. I never asked senior apprentice brother to steal a universe reversal talisman for me. In that case, it was your senior brother who wanted to steal this talisman to please you? Luo he asked as he glanced at Mu Xiaoxue with a gloomy expression. Mu Xiaoxue, on the other hand, knelt obediently and did not say a word. Although she didn't say anything, her silence indicated that she agreed with Luo He's statement. It was Zhao Yi himself who wanted to please her. That was why he came to steal the amulet. She did not instruct him to do so. She didn't do anything. She was just a little white flower drifting about. How could she instruct others to do this and that? Senior apprentice brother Zhao had completely misunderstood her intentions. He didn't have the ability and still wanted to steal a charm from Great Master Luo. What else could he do when he was caught red-handed? Chapter 52:17. Just obediently accept the punishment. Why did he have to expose Xiao Shui? Could it be that two people being punished together would be more comfortable than one person being punished? Luo he stared at Mu Xiaoshui with a gloomy expression. After a long time he laughed out loud. This woman really dared to say anything. She was indeed Mu Qingya's daughter. She was cunning and selfish enough to give up on everyone around her when something happened. Zhao Yi couldn't accept it and shouted angrily, Xiao Shui! Xiao Shui! Why are you doing this to me? Why? Xiao Shui wanted him to be the scapegoat and he accepted it. But Xiao Shui's attitude, this attitude of wanting to cut ties with him, what was going on? Everything he did was for Xiao Shui's sake. In the end, did he have to tell her that everything was just a joke? Mu Xiaoshui didn't even look at Zhao Yi and knelt there obediently. She said with tears in her eyes, I hope Master Luo and Master Luo can help me. All right. Master Luo laughed devilishly and opened his fingers. Suddenly, 5 attack talismans shot out from his 5 fingers. They instantly pierced through Zhao Yi's body. Ah! Zhao Yi struggled with all his might and broke free from the beam and fell heavily to the ground. He curled up his body and felt as if there was a big hole in his chest. There was a terrifying gust of wind violently blowing in from the outside. These 5 offensive talismans caused his already broken body to be unable to withstand this power. Instantly, it became riddled with holes. Ah! Zhao Yi fell right in front of the little white flower Mu Xiaoshui. Mu Xiaoshui was so frightened that she quickly stood up and took a few steps back. She really didn't expect Master Luo to be so ruthless and kill senior brother Zhao Yi in one move. She really didn't expect it. Master Luo wanted senior brother Zhao Yi's life? Seeing senior brother Zhao Yi crawling on the ground like a worm, Mu Xiaoshui's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She didn't want to kill senior brother Zhao Yi. How could she expect Master Luo to be so ruthless? Master Luo actually killed someone for a talisman. He killed senior brother Zhao Yi. Killed Mu Xiaoshui was so scared that her face turned pale. She retreated step by step and bumped into a dusty shrine. Scary. It was too terrifying. Grandmaster Luo actually killed someone. He killed senior brother Zhao Yi. Mu Xiaoshui had nowhere else to retreat to. She could only stick close to the old Buddha statue. Her eyes were filled with fear as she stared at Zhao Yi, who was squirming on the ground. There was not a single part of Zhao Yi's body that was still intact. As he crawled, he left a long trail of blood on the ground. He wanted to crawl to Mu Xiaoshui's side, grab her hand, and call her one last time. Although this junior sister of his had caused him to suffer in the end and even caused his death, he didn't want to hate her. He didn't want Zhao Yi tried to crawl forward. But the last thing he saw was Mu Xiaoshui's face, which was twisted with fear and anger. His hand never managed to touch her. Mu Xiaoshui was so frightened that she climbed up the shrine and stayed far away from him, avoiding him as if he was the plague. In the end, Zhao Yi died under the shrine. He had died in this wretched temple of Qifeng. Seeing this, Mu Xiaoshui heaved a sigh of relief. Now that Zhao Yi was dead, the crime of theft would naturally fall on the dead man's shoulders. She was Mu Xiaoshui, the young miss of the City of Shadows. In this lifetime, she couldn't bear the slightest bit of stigma. Besides, she was innocent. Chapter 52:18. Even if it was just a small theft, she wouldn't allow it to tarnish her reputation. No, absolutely not. It seems that Miss Xiaoshui is relieved. Luo he smiled mischievously at Mu Xiaoshui. Mu Xiaoshui's slight smile instantly froze on her face. Qin Hong immediately waved at her and put on a kind expression. Miss Xiaoshui. Then, how about we make a deal? What? Mu Xiaoshui nervously stood close to the shrine, one hand tightly gripping the small offering table behind her. On this gloomy night, inside a dilapidated temple, she was the only one who had to face family head Qin and Grandmaster Luo. The people standing beside her were all their guards. She, Mu Xiaoshui, was alone and helpless. Even if she wanted to go back and get help now, it was too late. Now she could only take one step at a time and see what family head Qin had to say. Mu Xiaoshui very stiffly smiled at Qin Hong. Family head, if there's anything, you can just tell me. I am a member of Tianyun. I will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire for the organization. Ha ha ha. Qin Hong clapped and laughed. Xiaoshui is indeed a good child. Hall Master Mu is the backbone of our organization and has contributed a lot to our organization. Xiaoshui, you really want this universe reversal charm, right? While speaking, Qin Hong flipped his palm slightly and revealed a jade talisman flashing with purple light. Mu Xiaoshui's heart suddenly jumped. Her eyes lit up as she stared at the jade talisman in Qin Hong's hand. She asked with a trembling voice, Family head Qin, Master. Really? Is it? Of course, you can come over and touch it. Somehow, Mu Xiaoshui felt as if she was being carried by a string. Trembling, she walked to Qin Hong's side. She touched it. She really touched it. The jade talisman that could change one's luck was in her hand. If she immediately used it in front of Master Luo and family head Qin, Mu Xiaoshui didn't dare to act rashly. Luck was important, but the premise was that she had to be alive. If she was dead, what was the use of being able to change her luck? How is it? Qin Yi whispered seductively to her. Don't you feel that this little talisman is in control of your own fate? Indeed, just like the legend said, all you had to do was open this universe reversal talisman in front of that person. Soon, all the good fortune of the person you want to take away will be transferred to your side. You're no longer a cripple, family head Qin said with a smile. His voice was low and filled with an indescribable charm. You will become the brightest star in this world. You will obtain indescribable opportunities and luck. Your life will immediately be painted with bright colors. Your name, Mu Xiaoshui, will definitely be passed down for eternity. Everyone will praise you endlessly. Mu Xiaoshui became more and more excited. Yes, it was just as family head Qin had said. As long as she, Mu Xiaoshui, had this universe reversal talisman, she could completely change her fate and her future. As long as he had this talisman, everything would no longer be an illusory dream. Mu Xiaoshui took a deep breath. She couldn't control her excitement. Holding the talisman in her hand, she felt as if she had the whole world. Chapter 52:19. An indescribable excitement rose from the bottom of her heart. Patriarch Qin. Mu Xiaoshui couldn't hide the excitement in her heart, tightly holding the jade talisman in her hand. Qin Hong smiled. As long as you can help me with one thing, then this universe reversal talisman is yours. Mu Xiaoshui's heart was filled with anticipation and hope. Her eyes completely lit up at that moment, as if they were illuminated by thousands of stars. Okay, I'll do it. Mu Xiaoshui nodded and said, Patriarch, whatever you want me to do, I can do it. Don't worry, it will be something within your ability. Qin Hong smiled and nodded to Mu Xiaoshui. I won't make it too difficult for you. Qin Chao. Qin Chao's face was gloomy as he appeared beside Mu Xiaoshui like a ghost. With a perverted expression, he stuck to Mu Xiaoshui's back and sniffed. Mu Xiaoshui was frightened by him and screamed, shrinking her body and hiding beside Qin Hong. Ha ha ha. Qin Hong smiled faintly. Xiaoshui, don't be afraid. Qin Chao is just joking with you. Xiaoshui, take him with you in the future. With his help, you will be able to get twice the result with half the effort. When Mu Xiaoshui saw Qin Grass's sinister and narrow face, she was so scared that her heart trembled. However, on the surface, she still obediently agreed and asked in a soft voice, What does Patriarch want Xiaoshui to do? Qin Hong smiled and stared at her with a strange light in his eyes. I heard that when Joey City was besieged by corpse puppets, you were also there. Yes. Mu Xiaoshui was a little confused. Qin Hong waved to her. Don't worry, I just want you to run over and put on a show. Just like this it will be. Mu Xiaoshui carefully walked to Patriarch Qin's side and listened. The more she listened, the more the smile on her face bloomed. In the end, a bright smile bloomed on Mu Xiaoshui's face. Patriarch, don't worry. Xiaoxue will definitely live up to Patriarch's expectations. Xiaoxue will definitely handle this matter properly. Patriarch, please wait for my good news. Good. Ha 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 ha. Qin Hong laughed and clapped his hands, nodding repeatedly. I was right about you. Good boy, once you finish this matter, this inverse the universe charm will be yours. Thank you, family head. Mu Xiaoxue immediately knelt down and bowed to family head Qin emotionally. If she could really obtain such a magical talisman, she was willing to pay any price. Moreover, it was just as family head Qin had said. It really wasn't difficult to do this. As long as she did this, everything would be fine. Mu Xiaoxue took a deep breath and a smile appeared on her face. Qin Hong was also very satisfied with her attitude. What he wanted was for Mu Xiaoxue to work for him wholeheartedly. With such a strong goal, Mu Xiaoxue would definitely not let him down. Alright, Qin Chao, you can send Miss Mu back. Qin Hong waved his hand, pretending to be tired. No need. I can go back by myself. Mu Xiaoxue was shocked. To be honest, she was still a little scared to see Qin Chao's dark and narrow horse face in the middle of the night. Instead of letting him send her back, it would be better to walk back by herself. Unfortunately, family head Qin didn't want to satisfy her wishes. He smiled and waved his hand. I'm afraid it's too far for you to walk back by yourself. Chapter 52:20. Let Qin Grass carry you for a while. We'll be back soon, Qin Hong said with a smile. Qin Grass made a gesture with a fake smile. Please, Miss Mu. Half of Mu Xiaoxue's body stiffened. When she laid on Qin Grass's back, she felt that she was lying on a piece of cold, rotten meat. When Qin Grass's hands held her legs without any scruples, Mu Xiaoxue was even more ashamed and resentful. She felt that his hands were like poisonous snakes, grabbing her legs and causing her to feel pain. However, she didn't dare to say anything. Now that her life was more important, Mu Xiaoxue just buried her head and let Qin Grass carry her all the way out of the dilapidated temple. After the two left, Luo he turned to look at family head Qin. Family head, you're giving Miss Mu a glimmer of hope so that she can risk her life for you. Qin Hong laughed out loud. So what? Luo he shook his head and smacked his lips. Miss Mu looks like a smart person, but I didn't expect her to be so stupid. You don't understand, Luo he. Qin Hong said with a smile. You don't know how an ordinary person feels when they see a glimmer of hope in front of them. Now that Mu Xiaoxue knows that she finally has a glimmer of hope to embark on the path of cultivation, become stronger, and become a powerhouse, don't you think she'll fight desperately for it? It's this talisman that gave her hope and a glimmer of light. Qin Hong's lips curled into a sly smile. Luo he shook his head and said with a smile, she doesn't know that this universe reversal talisman is just a half-finished product. Even the hall master said that the effect of this talisman would only last for 3 days. In other words, this talisman could indeed transfer someone's luck, creation, and everything else. However, once the time was up, everything would turn into an illusion and vanish into nothingness like a bubble. However, experiencing the path of becoming a powerhouse for 3 days would drive Mu Xiaoxue crazy. Before she got it, she would at most have fantasies. However, if one were to lose this kind of unparalleled power again after having it, Luo he shook his head. He didn't dare to think about what would happen to Mu Xiaoxue. No matter how strong a person's mental fortitude was, they probably wouldn't be able to withstand such a fatal blow. On the other side, Mu Xiaoxue, who had a strong fantasy in her heart, was sent back home by Qin Grass. Her current residence was also on Changle North Street. She had found an inconspicuous house to stay for the time being. Yes, that's enough. Put me down. When she came back to her senses, she found that Qin Grass had already carried her back to her room. Mu Xiaoxue couldn't help but feel a little angry. This Qin Grass, along the way, had been very unruly with her. Now that he had put her down, he did not forget to take advantage of her body, which made Mu Xiaoxue very unhappy. However, this person was sent to his side by family head Qin. It was probably because family head Qin was worried about her and wanted to send someone to keep an eye on her. She didn't dare to have a direct confrontation with this zither grass, so she could only coldly say to him, All right, you can leave now. I'm home. However, Qin Chao licked the corner of her lips and said with a smile, Miss Mu, I'm afraid you have some misunderstanding about Master's arrangements. From today onwards, Master wants me to follow Miss Mu. Qin Grass took a step forward, almost sticking to Mu Xiaoshua's body, and sniffed again. Mu Xiaoshua cried out in shock and took a step back, bumping into the bedpost with a thump. Chapter 52-21. What's the matter, Xiao Shui? City Lord Mu's voice came from next door, making Mu Xiaoshua's heart slightly calm. Father was next to her. She was not afraid. Qin Grass generously opened the door and welcomed the angry City Lord Mu in. Mu Jinghong saw a man in his daughter's room and was about to flare up on the spot. But when he looked again, he recognized that it was Qin Hong's personal guard. Why are you here? City Lord Mu, you don't have to worry about this. You just need to know that I will be by Miss Mu's side in the future. No matter where she goes, I will go too. Mu Xiaoshue was so shocked that her face turned pale. What did he mean? Was this stinky man going to follow her to the toilet? Wasn't he taking advantage of her? Of course, Mu Jinghong was very angry. It was just that Qin Grass was a very loyal dog by the patriarch's side. It was precisely because one had to consider the master's face before beating a dog, so he naturally couldn't be too harsh. Thus, with a cold expression, he swallowed his anger and said, My daughter is still an unmarried young lady after all. I believe that family head Qin's arrangement was to have Brother Chao be her personal bodyguard and not follow her like a shadow. Qin Grass laughed and gave Mu Jinghong face. All right, I will visit Miss Mu at this time tomorrow. After saying that, he left through the window. Mu Xiaoshue immediately burst into tears and threw herself into her father's arms for comfort. Mu Jinghong was very angry. He pushed her and asked, Why did you provoke such a big Buddha in the middle of the night? Father. Mu Xiaoshue told him what had happened. Of course, she did not say that she had instigated Zhao Yi to steal the talisman. She put all the blame on Zhao Yi. Mu Jinghong was very angry. You really can't do anything right. Forget it. Since this matter has happened, we can only take it one step at a time. Mu Jinghong patted his daughter's hand comfortingly. Don't worry. With me here, Qin Grass will not dare to act recklessly. It's about Patriarch Qin's matter. Father, I will definitely do it well. Mu Jinghong sighed and stroked his daughter's hair. It's really hard on you. If you can really get that Inverse the Universe talisman, it will be your good fortune. Mu Xiaoshue nodded excitedly. Yes, Father, I will definitely do my best. Family head Qin's request wasn't difficult. Mu Xiaoshue felt that she would definitely be able to complete the task properly. At that time, the Universe Reversal Talisman would be hers. No one would be able to stop her from taking the next step. She would obtain the inner world, the spirit realm, the supreme arts, and the cultivation of the God realm. Ha! Ha 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 ha! Ha! Crown Princess, Crown Princess. Arbor had just gotten up and was dragging a string of little radish heads to the garden to stretch his limbs as usual. On the other side, Kai Shou hurried over with a group of people and bowed to her. What happened? If there was nothing, Kai Shou would not have rushed over like this. Crown Princess. Kai Shou's face was red with anger. It's Count Huainan's second concubine and second Mississippi. They're kneeling in front of the Chao Estate's entrance and are currently kowtowing and complaining of injustice. What? Arbor's eyes instantly turned cold. Why did she run over to the Chao Estate to cause trouble again? That's right. She was in the Eastern Palace and was separated by many palace doors. Naturally, he couldn't mess with her. These people could only be picking the soft persimmons to pinch. Elder sister. Arbor was still angry when she suddenly heard Xiao Lin-er's voice from the star domain. She casually let her out. Xiao Lin-er pounced on her as soon as she came out. Elder sister, I want to find a place to advance. Chapter 52-22. Arbor nodded and turned to call a hidden guard over. Bring Lin-er to a secluded place to advance first. Elder sister. Xiao Lin-er glanced at her with a grin and then noticed that her expression was not right. What's wrong? Nothing, go advance first. There's something at home, elder sister will take care of it. When Xiaolin heard that something happened at home, she immediately called out, Elder sister, then I'll go back with you. There's no rush to advance first. It's fine. Arbor glanced at her younger sister and hesitated for a moment. Xiaolin hurriedly said, Elder sister, how can I not go if something happens at home? Us sisters are of the same mind, our sharpness can cut through metal, and everything can be easily solved. I want to go, I must go and take a look. Arbor could not help but laugh inwardly. Looking at her younger sister's situation, it seemed to be all right, so she nodded. Her parents and family had not seen this younger sister for a long time, so it would be good to see her first. If Xiaolin suddenly wanted to advance later, then let her go to East Peak Mountain. In any case, that mountain had already been flattened by Qi Xianxian and the others, so it would not be a big deal for her to cause more destruction at most. She would make that unlucky Dou family head cry again. Thinking of this, Arbor's expression turned slightly better. She pulled her younger sister's hand and said, Then come with me. Xiaolin nodded and rubbed her fists. I want to see who dared to cause trouble at our home when I wasn't around. She was definitely going to twist that person's head off and kick it around like a ball. Arbor looked at her younger sister's spirited appearance and could not help but find it funny. She nodded and said, It's second concubine and young miss from Count Huainan estate. Xiaolin was at a loss. I don't know them. Second young miss, you naturally don't know them. Kai Xiu angrily called out from the side. If you see those two, you might want to slap them. Elder sister Kai Xiu is such a good-natured person, but even she said that. Those two are definitely not good people. Xiaolin harumphed and rubbed her little fists. Elder sister, let's go. Let's go see what they're up to. Arbor raised his hand to summon Qing Luan and let everyone jump on. Qing Luan did not need a pass to enter and leave the palace. The guards at the gate only raised their heads to take a look and let him pass. If the little crown princess wanted to leave the palace, who would dare to stop her? Anyone who tried to stop her would be unlucky. Humph. If he offended the crown prince, he might still be able to survive. But if he offended the crown princess, he would be doomed. On the other side, Arbor took Xiaolin, Kai Xiu, and Kai Chi to the entrance of the Chao mansion. Before they even landed in the distance, they saw a group of people crowding at the entrance of the Chao estate, craning their necks to look. The young crown princess's face darkened. She turned around and nodded to everyone. She put away the blue luan and the group of people floated down. A group of passers-by who were watching the show suddenly saw someone descending from the sky and hurriedly raised their heads. With one look, they were shocked. One person repeatedly shouted, The crown princess is back! The crown princess is back! Immediately, the people in front of the entrance scattered like birds and beasts. They ran in all directions like a swarm of bees, as if Arbor would slap them to death. Everyone took to their heels and ran faster than rabbits. Xiaolin's mouth could not help but twitch. These people are quite tactful. How could they not be tactful? Your elder sister is so scary, who would dare to blindly watch the show at the entrance of the Chao estate. Chapter 52-23. After the crowd dispersed, they didn't go far, secretly hiding in the streets and alleys. Hiding in a corner, they squeezed their heads and slanted their eyes, continuing to watch the entrance of the Chao estate. It's just that they didn't dare to approach. At the entrance of the Chao estate, there really were two white flowers in full bloom kneeling, one old and one young. The two were kneeling side by side in front of the Chao estate, wailing as if at a funeral, what injustice, what guilt. One voice at a time. Before Chao Mu could flare up, Xiaolin had already leaped forward and kicked that old white flower's back. Whose family are you mourning at? Who let you come to our house to cry? Wei Ziqin, who originally had an awkward expression, didn't know what to say to this second concubine mother of the Count of Huainan estate. Suddenly shouted at by her daughter, she hurriedly looked up, and her anger couldn't help but turn into joy. She saw her younger daughter holding her older daughter's hand, the two of them stepping through the door together. Xiaolin supported Arbor's hand. Seeing that the little white flower was about to pounce on her older sister, She hurriedly kicked it away. You dare to bump into my older sister's stomach? I'll kill you. Wei Ziqin hurriedly covered her younger daughter's mouth, hurriedly saying, Young lady, don't fight and kill all the time. This daughter was really worrying. If she had a fierce reputation in the capital, how would she find a good family in the future? Mother, Xiao Liner pulled down Wei Ziqin's hand. I just came out of seclusion and you're already talking about me. Wei Ziqin couldn't help but smile and pat her hand. You child. Mother isn't talking about you. Mother is worried. Forget it. Forget it. Let's talk about this later. These two people from the Count of Huainan estate had to be dealt with first. It was really annoying to have them in front of the door. When these two womenfolk kneeled in front of the Chao estate, Wei Ziqin could only tell the men in the family to hide in the rear courtyard to avoid a confrontation. Xiao Yao wanted to rush out with her sword, but she hurriedly stopped her. There was already a large crowd outside waiting to watch the show. If Xiao Yao really took out her sword to chop them, wouldn't the streets know tomorrow? Sister-in-law. When Xiao Liner saw Xiao Yao, she hurriedly ran over. Aya, what did I miss in seclusion? Look, this is my little nephew? Peony was hugging the tiger cub. She had put away her sword, but her face was still filled with indignation. Now that she saw Xiao Liner run over, she finally smiled. Liner's out. That's amazing. At such a young age, he's about to break through to level 7. Xiao Liner, Xiao Liner's Xiao Liner. Buys by her buys. Lind tiest, s buys, s lintitut, est, lintest by. Ti Xiao Yao smiled and nodded, holding Xiao Liner's hand and exchanging a few pleasantries. When she saw the two people kneeling in front of the door from the corner of her eyes, her expression immediately changed. These two women actually dared to kneel in front of the Chao estate and ruin their family's reputation. How hateful! I'll deal with it, Arbor said with a sullen face. This mother and daughter pair came for her, and it originally had nothing to do with the family. However, because of her, the family was implicated and Arbor felt very apologetic. When Wei Ziqin saw her daughter's expression, she knew that she was thinking too much again, and hurriedly consoled, Daughter, don't think too much. We're all family. There's no such thing as implicating. Chapter 52-24. Arbor nodded slightly. I know. She was in a bad mood when she saw this kind of thing. After all, 2 days ago, someone came to the 100-day banquet to make a scene because of her. Fortunately, she controlled herself and didn't kill them. Otherwise, wouldn't the 100-day banquet be stained with blood? She walked slowly to the two weeping women and said coldly, Get up. Madame Bao Jr. trembled and quickly knelt in front of her daughter. She cried, Crown Princess, please don't be angry. It's already been 3 months. You can't let a beautiful girl like me spend the rest of her life in a nunnery like this. Madame Bao Jr.'s words made it seem like it was her idea to ask Feng Mingyue to go to the nunnery. This is His Majesty's decree, Arbor said coldly. I think you mother and daughter are stupid. You can't even distinguish between His Majesty's decree and this crown princess's intention? His Majesty's decree is not your decree. Now that you're pregnant with the dragon fetus, you can say whatever you want. Madame Bao Jr. curled her lips angrily, but she quickly put on a smile and said with a flattering smile, Crown Princess, it's not that this lowly one wants to overstep the rules, but His Majesty ordered my daughter to go to the nunnery to cultivate for half a month. It's already been 3 months. Crown Prince Consort, shouldn't you be appeased by now? Besides, Mingyue contradicted you back then because she was childish and shouldn't be like this. But it's already been 3 months, and Mingyue has already received the punishment she deserves. Please forgive her. Madame Bao Jr. wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief and cried, Crown Princess, Mingyue's life in Tsiu Nunnery is really poor. 3 meals a day are thin porridge, and there isn't even a side dish to accompany the porridge. Crown Princess, why do you have to do this? This punishment should be enough. Wei Ziqin was eager to protect her daughter and said angrily, Nonsense. Second aunt, what are you saying? What does it have to do with the crown prince consort whether or not your daughter can come back? It's not like the crown princess ordered her to suffer in the nunnery. Madam Chow, do you think this is appropriate? If it wasn't for the crown princess, His Majesty wouldn't have ordered Mingyue to be punished. Madame Bao wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and looked heartbroken. Originally, His Majesty had ordered Mingyue to stay in the nunnery for half a month. But now it has already been 3 months. Little Madame Bao continued to cry. Crown Princess, you have to know your limits, don't you? There has to be a time limit for this punishment. Shut up. The young Crown Princess coldly scolded. What do you want? Madame Bao Jr.'s eyes rolled and she quickly put on a fawning expression. This subject hopes that the Crown Princess will go to the Count of Huainan's estate and personally explain this matter to Madame and take my daughter back to the estate. Wei Ziqin heard this and couldn't help but laugh in anger. You want the Crown Princess to send your daughter back to the Count of Huainan's estate? Do you think you have the face to do so? Madame Bao Jr. couldn't help but vomit blood in anger. How could she not have the face? She was also the second Madame of the Count of Huainan's estate. This matter was originally caused by the Crown Princess. She asked the Crown Princess to send her and her daughter back to the estate and then explain it to First Madame. Wasn't it right? Wicked woman. Wei Ziqin finally understood. She was so angry that her face turned pale, and she pointed at Madame Bao Jr. and shouted. Chapter 52-25. What a wicked woman. Your madam chased you and your daughter out of the door and refused to let you two in, so you came to our Chow estate. You want to use the Crown Princess's name to send you and your daughter back to the estate? You really have a good plan. Wei Ziqin angrily scolded and pointed at Madame Bao Jr. Don't look at me like that. Who do you think you are? You have the face to come here and ask the Crown Princess to do you and your daughter a favor? Madame Bao Jr.'s face was covered in dirt after being scolded by her. On the side, Feng Mingyue couldn't help but say angrily, Shouldn't I? I suffered so much in the nunnery for so many months because Feng Mingyue's cry was hurriedly covered by Madame Bao Jr., who rushed forward. On the way here, she had repeatedly exhorted her daughter to not get into a conflict with the young crown prince consort. Otherwise, did she really plan to live in the nunnery for the rest of her life? Who knew that his daughter was still so impulsive? He didn't keep an eye on her and almost caused trouble again. If she argued with the crown princess at this time, they definitely wouldn't have a good time. Especially now that the little crown princess's belly was so big. If she bumped into something and blamed it on them, Madame Bao Jr. couldn't help but tremble and almost didn't dare to continue thinking. If the dragon fetus was damaged, it was very likely that the entire Count Huainan estate would be executed. Perhaps the wicked First Madame's words would be true, and even the dog in front of their house wouldn't be spared. When she thought of this, Madame Bao Jr. trembled again. She quickly grabbed her daughter and looked at Wei Ziqin's group with a smile. Madame Chow. Madame Bao Jr. said with a smile. Say, what are we arguing about? Actually, this is a very small matter, ha. Shut up. Wei Ziqin didn't want to see the woman in front of her at all. This shrew actually wanted her daughter to compromise and give them face. What did she think her daughter was? What did she think she was? Her daughter was the crown princess. If she ran to send a concubine's daughter back to the mansion of Count Huainan, what would she do? Little Madame Bao was really daring. Her wishful thinking made Wei Ziqin want to go up and give this woman 2 tight slaps. Reason told her that she had to remain calm and collected. She had to maintain her dignified and virtuous demeanor as the Madame of the Chow estate and the mother of the Crown Princess. But in reality, she only wanted to go up and tear apart this idiot in front of her. Shaolin also wanted to go up and kick the mother and daughter, but she was stopped by Arbor. The little Crown Princess said indifferently, We don't have to do anything. Someone will come and take care of them. Madame Bao hugged her daughter and shivered. The word cuisine that came out of the little Crown Princess's mouth sounded as if the mother and daughter were trash that could be thrown away at any time. Terrifying. Madame Bao Jr. hurriedly tugged at her daughter and thought about how to continue singing. She heard a servant hurriedly report from outside. Madame, the Crown Princess. The Madame of Count Huainan and eldest Miss are here. Clang. Madame Bao Jr. collapsed on the threshold in fright. Then she felt someone kick her in the back. She couldn't take it and fell forward, almost falling flat on her face. The Madame of Count Huainan and Fong Luiying rushed over. Looking at the Madame of Count Huainan, she was so anxious that she even forgot to put on her cloak. Chapter 52-26. She stepped through the door and kicked that shrew Madame Bao Jr. to vent the anger in her chest. As soon as Fong Luiying entered, she hurriedly greeted the Crown Princess and Madame Qiao. After Madame Count Huainan gave her greetings, she also hurriedly grabbed Wei Ziqin's hand and said, "Big Sister Qin, it's all younger sister's fault for not disciplining the concubines in the manner. They actually ran over and disturbed your family's peace." When Wei Ziqin saw Madame Count Huainan, her expression finally relaxed. "Madame's words are too serious. It's just that this mother and daughter pair came to my Qiao estate's door early in the morning, kneeling, crying, and howling. They really did cause a lot of trouble for my family. In addition, this mother and daughter pair even wanted the Crown Princess to send them back home. This is really unreasonable." Madame Count Huainan was so angry that she fell backwards. She turned and shouted at a group of burly mamas. "What are you all still standing there for? Why haven't you taken them away yet? They're all insensible things." Madame Count Huainan harshly scolded. "You're just a concubine's child. You actually dare to beg the Crown Princess for grace and shamelessly ask people to send you back home? You deserve to be a concubine for the rest of your life, you unpresentable thing." Madame Bao Jr. was so angry that her hands trembled. She shrieked, "Older sister, your words are too unreasonable. Mingyue is the Fong estate's concubine's daughter and master's biological daughter. What are you doing? Let go, let go, let go." Before Madame Bao could finish speaking, several old maidservants grabbed her by the arms and lifted her up. Arbor looked on coldly and didn't say anything. Xiao Lin inwardly cursed. "Serves them right." She glared fiercely at Madame Bao and her daughter. What the hell? Running to someone's home early in the morning to howl about a funeral was truly uncultured and infuriating. Fong Mingyue was also lifted up by someone. She cried out in fright, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Didn't Mother say that this method would definitely work? Mother said that as long as she and her daughter knelt in front of the Qiao estate and forced the Crown Princess to send them back to Count Huainan's estate, it would definitely work. But now, why did things turn out contrary to their wishes and go in the opposite direction? Where was First Madame taking them to?" Madame Bao Jr. was also panicked. She yelled, "Older sister, what are you doing? Older sister? Older sister, where are you taking us to go?" "Where?" The Countess of Huainan sneered. "Go where you should go. Madame Bao's madams, the Crown's estate S's? Madams's madams. If Master finds out later, he definitely won't let you off." Ouch! Young Madame Bao was secretly pinched by the maidservants. It was so painful that tears came out of her eyes. The Countess of Huainan sneered, "Don't worry. I promise you and your daughter will live well in the nunnery for the next few years." There was no way out for them. Madame Bao almost fainted when she heard this. Her beautiful daughter was going to spend the rest of her life in a nunnery. How could that be? "Send them there." Madame Count of Huainan shouted angrily and turned to take Wei Ziqin's hand, saying, "Sister Qin, don't worry. I promise I'll send someone to watch them this time and won't let them come out to cause trouble again." Chapter 52-27. Little Madame Bao still wanted to bite and curse, but her mouth was covered by the old mamas. With 4 people carrying 1 person, it was as if they were carrying pigs. They carried the 2 people out of the Qiao estate. From beginning to end, Wei Ziqin and the others only watched coldly from the sidelines. As they watched the mother and daughter being forcefully carried out, the depression in their hearts dissipated slightly. That mother and daughter pair were truly too outrageous. They had been causing a ruckus since early morning until now. Even though Wei Ziqin's health had always been good, she still felt a bit tired at this time. Who could endure such a ruckus? Arbor stepped forward to support her mother. "Mother, are you all right?" Seeing her daughter's worry, Wei Ziqin hurriedly shook her head. "It's nothing. It's just that they've been causing a ruckus since early in the morning. My head hurts a bit. Mother will be fine after returning to her room to rest," Xiao Yao hurriedly said, then quickly helped Mother back to her room to rest. Count Huainan's madam was also embarrassed to continue staying here. She hurriedly nodded and said, "Sister Qin, go rest. We'll come back another day to apologize." Wei Ziqin nodded and was helped back to her room by the maidservants. Fong Luing slowly walked to Arbor's side and said in a low voice, "The Crown Princess' second sister and the others have really gone too far this time. They've made the Chao estate restless. My mother and I both feel very ashamed." Arbor nodded slightly at her. "If your mother makes the decision to send her to Tsiu Nunnery again, will Count Huainan." Fong Luing couldn't help but snort. "That's His Majesty's decree. Even if it's my father, she wouldn't dare to defy the decree." Arbor made a sound of agreement and said indifferently, "Then let her continue to cultivate her body and mind in the nunnery. It doesn't matter if she cultivates for a year or so. Moreover, the mother and daughter pair are so talkative. They've probably caused a headache for everyone in Tsiu Nunnery." Fong Luing's eyes turned and she immediately understood. "Crown Princess, please don't worry. My daughter knows what to do." Arbor nodded his head and asked someone to send Mrs. Liu and her daughter out of the house. Then, he followed Xiao Yao back to her room to see her chubby little nephew. Xiao Yao couldn't help but ask curiously, "Jojo, you were talking to Miss Fong at the door for quite a long time." "Yes, I gave him a few instructions. Miss Fong is a smart person." Arbor teased his little nephew who was lying on the bed with a hand-sewn cloth tiger in one hand. The little guy was quite mischievous. He looked at Sir Jojo and only thought about moving every few days. That laziness made Arbor want to laugh. "This kid looks like my brother who," Jojo said. "Isn't that so? Look at him, he looks so dignified and lazy. If he doesn't look like him, then does he look like me?" Xiao Yao said disdainfully. Arbor couldn't help but want to laugh, but before he could open his mouth, he heard a laugh coming from outside the door. "How am I lazy? Younger sister, help me be the judge." Xiao Yao covered her mouth and laughed. She turned around and glared at her husband who was striding through the door. "You're back so early today. Business has been sluggish recently, and there's not much business in the shop. I saw that there weren't many people, so I gave the workers a break early and let them go back to rest early." Brother whose ironware shop was only one street away from their home. Usually, it didn't take long for him to go back and forth. Ever since Xiao Yao gave birth and took care of the baby, brother who had been slacking all day. From time to time, he would close the shop and go home to take care of the baby. Xiao Yao laughed and scolded him for not doing his job. She glanced at Xiao Hu and said with a smile, "Our son is really like you, mischievous." Chapter 52-28. If it weren't for the fact that we have other shops at home to support our livelihood, with that lousy ironware shop of yours, I think the two of us would probably starve to death. Xiao Hu laughed good-naturedly and patted his head. The family doesn't lack this bit of money from me. Wife, I was just trying to pass the time, so I opened a shop for fun. Brother Xiao Hu's craftsmanship is pretty good." Arbor nodded and said, "The swords that we sent to the guards last time are also very handy for everyone." That's good, that's good." Xiao Hu laughed heartily. He was very happy to be able to help his younger sister. "Eldest brother, sister-in-law." Jolin's voice sounded from outside the door. Xiao Hu hurried to open the door and welcomed his younger sister in with a smile. "Hey, you sisters-in-law, have a chat. I'll go to the kitchen to take a look and bring you some snacks." "Sister-in-law." Shaoliner bounced forward and called out with a grin, "Quick, quick, let me see my fat nephew. Ha 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 ha, I'm also an aunt now." Arbor couldn't help but want to laugh and beckon to the lass. Jolin flew to the bed and picked up all kinds of toys to tease the lazy child. "Ha ha ha, he's so funny." Arbor rolled his eyes. "You're funny, your whole family is funny." Xiao Yao. Seeing the two sisters teasing the child in front of the bed, Xiao Yao's heart was filled with happiness. When she turned back, She saw her husband striding over with a large tray in his hand. When he entered, he yelled, "Here! The snacks are here." Xiao Yao couldn't help but chuckle. Later, Prince Mo naturally heard about this when he came to the Chao estate to pick up his wife. Without another word, His Highness the Crown Prince immediately sent someone to the Duke of Huainan's estate to find the old uncle and harshly reprimand him. The old uncle, who was originally furious and wanted to settle the score with eldest madam, was so scared that he immediately wilted. His Highness the Crown Prince had said that if he dared to bring the mother and daughter back within 3 years, his title as a count would be over. As such, for the sake of his title and future, no matter how much his heart ached for his concubine's daughter, Fong Xiangue did not dare to bring her back. Mrs. Lu's heart was filled with gratitude. If it weren't for the Crown Prince's timely arrival, she would have been punished by the old master to kneel in the ancestral hall. On the other side, Madame Bao and her daughter, who had been carried to Tsiu Nunnery and locked up in the nunnery, received reliable and accurate information. The Duke cancelled the trip and withdrew the carriage that was originally sent to pick up the mother and daughter. Fong Mingyue felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She was so angry that she made a scene in the nunnery. She smashed, and threw everything she could. How could this be? Does father not want us anymore? Fong Mingyue shouted angrily. Why is it like this, mother? Didn't you say that as long as we show our faces at the Count's residence and cry, father will compromise? Also, you said that as long as the Crown Princess agrees to let us go back, everything will be fine. And the result? How could that bitch agree? She doesn't even have time to deal with us. How could she be so kind as to agree? Fong Mingyue shouted angrily. Now, everything is over. We can't go back. Okay. Stop arguing. Madame Bao was annoyed by her daughter's argument and couldn't help but turn around and yell at her daughter. Fong Mingyue widened her eyes and stared at her mother, who had always obeyed her, in disbelief. She cried out miserably, "This was all your idea." Chapter 52:29. You're yelling at me now? You're yelling at me? Now I can't go back. I'm going to spend my best years in this shabby nunnery. This is all you're doing. Originally, we only needed to wait quietly. Maybe in another half a month, the Count's estate would send a carriage to pick me up. It's you. You insisted on sneaking back now. You insisted on letting that slut embarrass me and send me back to the Count's estate to suppress First Madame's arrogance. And the result? My face was slapped to the ground and slapped hard. Madame Bao was so angry that she almost vomited blood and died. She stared at her daughter and roared, "Enough! Who am I doing this for? You're still blaming me? You're blaming me?" Fong Mingyue was startled by her mother's red eyes. She quickly shrank back and cried out gloomily, "I don't want to blame you. It's just that your thinking is too perfect and too simple. In the end, things didn't go as planned." Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. The door of the nunnery was slammed twice. Seeing that no one came to open the door, one of the fat nuns kicked the door open with a bang. "What's all this noise about?" the fat nun shouted. She raised her large hand and slapped the crying Fong Mingyue in the face. Fong Mingyue was stunned. In a moment of carelessness, she was slapped onto the hard bed board, and her nose was almost crooked. Madame Bao screamed and jumped up, looking like she was going to fight the fat nun to the death. However, with her mediocre martial arts, she couldn't withstand one move from the fat nun. She was sent flying to the side of the cabinet by the fat nun's large hand. With a dong sound, his big head knocked against the cabinet door, and a bloody mark was left on it. Madame Bao screamed in fright. Fong Mingyue was also angry. She threw out a fireball to attack the fat nun. However, although the fat nun was large, she was very nimble. After everyone moved to the side of the door, they quickly threw out a wave of spiritual energy and knocked away Fong Mingyue's attack. Fong Mingyue was so angry that she wanted to go crazy. However, because the other party's martial arts were stronger than hers, she couldn't do anything to them. The fat nun quickly rushed forward, grabbed Fong Mingyue's elbow, and forced her down onto the wooden bed. His other hand quickly swiped under her nose. Fang Mingyue couldn't hide the panic on her face. She immediately jumped up from the bed, pointed at the fat nun and shouted, You, what did you inhale for me? Miss Mingyue and second concubine, just stay in Tsiu nunnery and cultivate. The fat nun glanced at them coldly and shook her head indifferently. She put away the medicine bottle in her sleeve and winked at the nun next to her. That person also quickly walked forward, grabbed second aunt's collar, and sniffed the contents of the small medicine bottle for her. This was a good item that Miss Fang had sent over. She said that it was harmless to the body, but it would make the mother and daughter less noisy and quieter. You! Fang Mingyue wanted to shout, but she suddenly felt that her throat was very dry. After coughing twice, he was surprised to find that he couldn't even make a sound. How could this be? Fang Mingyue's eyes widened in horror. She looked back at second concubine, Madame Bao, who also had a bewildered expression. Madame Bao was holding her forehead with one hand. When she found that she couldn't speak even if she wanted to, she repeatedly made several hand gestures to her daughter. The mother and daughter gesticulated for a long time, their expressions growing more and more frightened. Chapter 52:30. She turned around and saw the fat nun smiling coldly at the two of them. The medicine sent by eldest young Miss Fang was indeed extraordinary. With just a sniff, the mother and daughter pair immediately became mute. Excellent. During this period of time, the nunnery had not been very peaceful. The mother and daughter pair had been causing trouble all day long. It was so annoying. Now everyone could have a peaceful period of time. When eldest young Miss sent someone to deliver the medicine, she also said that they could sniff the medicine every 7 days to ensure that it would be quiet. The two of you should obediently live in Tsiu nunnery. It won't be too late to return to the capital when second young Miss Fang can sweep away this vicious aura. After saying this, she gave the other nun a look. The two of them turned around and left at the same time, closing the door with a bang. Little Madame Bao rushed to the door. She wanted to curse but found that she could not utter a single word. She could only forcefully pound on the door, causing the door to rumble loudly. How did she end up in such a bad situation? Little Madame Bao was really puzzled. She had secretly brought her daughter back to the capital to lift the ban on her daughter's hair cultivation. How did it end up like this now? Little Madame Bao turned around to look at her daughter, whose cheeks were red and swollen and was silently crying. She did not feel good in her heart. She walked forward and pulled Fang Mingyue, gesturing and speaking in front of her. Her original intention was to tell her not to worry and to relax. Her father, Count Huainan, would definitely find a way to pick them up. But then she thought of the news she received, saying that Count Huainan changed his mind before leaving and would not come to pick them up. She could not help but feel discouraged. What should she do in the future? When Mu Jingfeng was carried up, other than being able to move his neck, he could not move any part of his body. The more Qin Hong looked at Mu Jingfeng, the angrier he became. What happened? Last night, 2 assassins broke into his room. The guard said this and did not continue. A trace of anger rose in Qin Hong's eyes. Did second brother send someone to do it? Ever since second young master left, our people have been keeping an eye on their movements. The people around second young master, including young master Dugu's group, haven't made any movements. Qin Hong slapped the ground beside Mu Jingfeng's leg, creating a deep pit. Mu Jingfeng was so frightened that he shook his head repeatedly. He wanted to retract his leg, but he was powerless. Boss sent someone to do it. Qin Hong gritted his teeth and said angrily, "These 2 children are simply demonic." Seeing how his 2 sons were so protective of the little demoness, he wanted to help his sons get rid of this troublemaker. If it wasn't for this demoness obstructing them, their Tianyun wouldn't have been exposed so early. It's all because of this little demoness. It's all because of this demoness. Mu Jingfeng looked pleadingly at Qin Hong. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Qin Hong looked at him coldly, assessing in his heart whether this person still needed treatment, and whether it was worth saving. After a round of evaluation, family head Qin took out a medicine bottle from his bosom and poured out a black pill. "Do you dare to eat it?" Qin Hong sneered at Mu Jingfeng. I'll say the ugly words first. This level 5 mutated pill may cause your body to rapidly collapse. You'll be consigned to eternal damnation. Qin Hong curled his lips coldly at Mu Jingfeng and smiled. The worst outcome is that you'll become a rotting corpse without any thoughts. You know that. Chapter 52:31. But there is another possibility. It will let your body undergo 3 different stages of transformation and mutation. Of course, each stage of transformation will give you a new life. Your crippled legs will be able to stand up, and your body's functions will probably recover. You will become stronger each time. Qin Hong looked at Mu Jingfeng and saw a strong desire to live flash in his eyes. This is the strongest mutation pill that our Tianyun has developed so far. The effect will be much better than those basic mutation elixirs that are sprinkled all over the streets with nightcaw birds. The probability of mutating into a corpse puppet will also be much smaller than that. How about it? Do you want to give it a try? Mu Jingfeng couldn't speak, but the desire in his eyes was very obvious. Yes, he wanted to try. Of course, he wanted to take a gamble. He wanted to live, not die. Now that there was such a good opportunity in front of him, how could he let it go? Rather than living in a half-dead state with only his neck that could move, he might as well take a gamble. He had no choice at all. There was only one path in front of him. After taking this level 5 mutation pill, he would definitely be able to regain a new life. Don't show such a yearning expression. Qin Hong couldn't help but pour cold water on him. Although the probability is much smaller than the basic mutation elixir, you still have a high chance of becoming a corpse puppet. After all, your current body is so dilapidated that I can't say anything about it. Qin Hong sneered. But don't worry. Even if you become a walking corpse, you will definitely have the most transformation ability among the corpses. We also have research that shows that after taking the mutation pill and becoming a corpse puppet, there may be 2 to 3 stages of evolution and transformation. Of course, the most successful type is the perfect corpse puppet. This kind of corpse puppet is much stronger than the previous ones. It may have its own thoughts and may look no different from a human. You may not be able to find it at all if you walk in a crowd. Ha ha ha, do you want to become a mutant or a perfect corpse puppet? The road is under your feet. Work hard. Qin Hong gave a look. Immediately, a guard stepped forward, lowered his eyes, and took the pill from Qin Hong's hand and went to Mu Jingfeng's side. Mu Jingfeng hurriedly opened his mouth, looking expectant. When the pill entered his mouth, it turned into an ice-cold bitter liquid that slid down his esophagus, and Mu Jingfeng fell into a deep sleep. However, he could still feel that his body was undergoing a purgatory training. It was as if his entire body was being roasted over a fire. From top to bottom, from inside to outside, his entire body was boiling with heat. Qin Hong chuckled. Regarding Mu Xiaoshua's matter, I still need you to give her a hand. I hope you won't disappoint me. In a small alley beside Changle Resort, Mu Xiaoshua was fuming with rage, wishing she could skin the person in front of her alive. Xiaoshua, senior apprentice brother. When Mu Xiaoshua heard the voice, she couldn't help but struggle for a moment. She turned her teary eyes to Gu Yishuan, who had hurried over. What are you doing? Gu Yishuan rushed over and angrily grabbed Mu Xiaoshua from under Qin Chao's arm, shielding her behind herself. Mu Xiaoshua hated this bastard so much. She had planned to visit her mother, Mu Qingya, this morning. Actually, she wanted her mother to come up with a plan. Chapter 52:32. Who knew that the servants would stop him outside, saying that without the second young master's orders, no one could go in to visit. Thus, Qin Grass hypocritically came over and said that he could help her in. If Gu Yishuan hadn't happened to come over, Mu Xiaoshua wouldn't have known how to get rid of this ugly man. Qin Grass wasn't angry at being pushed away by Gu Yishuan. He chuckled and looked at Gu Yishuan, saying sarcastically, "So that's how it is." Gu Yishuan's heart thumped. He knew what Qin Grass meant. Qin Grass knew that he had told family head Qin, but no one else knew. He had been secretly happy that Zhao Yi was dead and no one could testify, so this matter wouldn't be mentioned again. But seeing Qin Grass today, he couldn't help but mutter in his heart. He was afraid that Qin Grass would shoot his mouth off, so he hurriedly smiled apologetically. So it's Lord Qin Grass. Qin Grass chuckled at him and turned to leave, leaving behind a thought-provoking sentence. A fair lady is indeed a gentleman's mate. Mu Xiaoxue was very puzzled. She hid behind Gu Yixuan and asked softly, "Senior brother Gu, what did he mean by that?" Gu Yixuan smiled awkwardly. "Nothing." "Oh right, junior sister. Did you come here early in the morning to see Master's wife?" "Yes, mother is very resourceful. I want her to give me some ideas about what I'm doing." Gu Yixuan persuaded her. Master's wife is being detained by the second young master. It's not easy to see her. The last time Master went, it took a lot of persuasion for the second young master to give Master some face. Mu Xiaoxue lowered her head dejectedly. "I know." Gu Yixuan took her hand and smiled. "Let's talk about something happy. I've already persuaded father to join our organization. In the future, our Gu family and the City of Shadows will be considered one family." "Really?" "Of course, this is all thanks to junior sister." Gu Yixuan smiled. "I've already reported it to family head Qin. Family head also said that he will reward junior sister in the future." Mu Xiaoxue pursed her lips and smiled. "What credit? Is what I should do. Right, what about the Lin family?" Gu Yixuan couldn't help but sneer. There hasn't been an answer yet, but it should be soon. They had no choice but to agree. "Don't forget that Lin Miao'er and Lin Jin'er are both in our hands." Mu Xiaoxue smiled faintly. "Sister Miao'er and the others are really forget it. Let's not talk about them. By the way, senior brother, why are you looking for me?" "Junior sister, I'll go with you tomorrow. Is everything almost ready?" "Yes." A cold light flashed in Mu Xiaoxue's eyes. "Little junior sister, although your work is important, your own safety is also very important." Gu Yixuan said, "But don't worry, I will protect you with my life. Thank you for your help, senior brother." The two of them chatted and laughed as they walked back. Gu Yixuan took the opportunity to curry favor with his little junior sister. After sending them into the house, he turned around and saw Qin Grass standing not far away, waiting for him. A cold light faintly appeared in his gloomy triangular eyes. Gu Yixuan was startled and hurriedly stepped forward. "Is something the matter, Lord Qin Herb?" "Gu Yixuan, don't play dumb. Tell me, how much are you going to give me to keep my mouth shut?" Qin Grass chuckled. Chapter 52-33. Gu Yixuan's heart almost jumped out of his chest, but on the surface, he put on a calm face. If Zhao Yi's matter was exposed to his junior sister and master, he would definitely suffer. Gu Yixuan secretly gritted his teeth, and could only accept Qin Grass's threat helplessly. "Lord Qin Grass, we are all working for the family head. You don't have to be like this." Gu Yixuan smiled and rubbed his hands. He took out a bag of spirit coins and stuffed it into Qin Grass's hands. Qin Grass weighed it, snorted, and turned to leave. "You brat, be careful." Until he walked far away, Gu Yixuan spat out indignantly, and a trace of anger flashed through his eyes. What a villain! He reported Zhao Yi. Could it be that it was for him? Wasn't it for the sake of the organization? Even the family head praised him for his loyalty. This Qin Grass, damn it, he actually used this to threaten him. He couldn't do anything to him now, but when he grew up, he would definitely teach this person a lesson. Achoo! Arbor rubbed his nose, sat on the bed and asked with a sleepy face, "What time is it?" Kai Xiu went forward and said, "It's almost noon. Crown Princess, did you not sleep well last night and catch a cold?" "No." Little Crown Princess waved her hand and said, "Maybe I slept too much. Strange recently, I always feel sleepy." He raised his hand and touched his stomach. She repeatedly checked his pulse several times, and found that there was no problem. She even nervously invited several imperial physicians to diagnose him, and the results were naturally the same as her own diagnosis. Even Kai Chi couldn't help but laugh at her. "Crown Princess, if you can't diagnose the problem, do you think those ordinary physicians can?" She actually understood this simple logic, but she had done it inadvertently. And then, when baby Mo comes out, she must tell her child how much she, as his mother, worried about him. Crown Princess. Kai-Chi stood at the side with clean clothes, and asked curiously, "This servant wants to ask you a question. If you have something to ask, just ask." "Why are you hesitating?" Little Crown Princess took a towel to wipe her face and replied casually, "Yes, that's the one." Kai-Chi asked with a face full of curiosity, "Crown Prince Consort, your medical skills are so brilliant. Then, can you diagnose whether the baby is a little imperial grandson or a little imperial grandson?" The little princess. Arbor frowned. He put down the wet towel and pretended to sigh. "I really can't diagnose it." Deep down, she was curious as well. He had used his inner vision many times, wanting to take a look at baby Mo's appearance. Unfortunately, the only thing he could see with his inner vision was that it was enveloped in a cloud of white mist. He couldn't see anything. She was depressed for a while and felt a little conflicted. It was so difficult to see the child. Kai Xiu glanced at her. "What's the hurry? Won't we know once the child is born?" In any case, regardless of whether it was a boy or a girl, it would definitely be a smart and healthy baby. His Majesty and the Empress are looking forward to it. Kai-Chi stuck out her tongue and nodded mischievously. "That's true." "Women!" Lord Guangguang exclaimed as he squeezed in from outside. "I see the red sun hanging high in the sky. The weather is very good. This seat has been born for so long, but I have never gone out for a stroll. Today, shouldn't you be a guide and bring this seat out for a stroll?" Kai Xiu's mouth twitched. Kai-Chi rolled up her sleeves with a grin. Chapter 52-34. As soon as Guangguang sees her action, he immediately takes a step back and forcefully beckons with his two small hands. A few heads immediately appear behind him. The little monk calls out, "Amitba, benefactress, call me mother." Arbor expressionlessly puts down the fine-toothed comb in her hand and turns her head to correct the little monk. The round-headed and plump little monk smacks his small mouth and looks at her with a bit of embarrassment. His cheeks are red and tender. After smacking his lips for a long time, he sneakily calls out, "Mother, mother." Arbor suddenly feels that his little appearance is like a thief, which is a bit comical and laughable. She curls her lips and beckons him over. The little baldy immediately rolls over. His chubby little arms and legs rush in front of her like a whirlwind. She patted his optical head. "Don't hang out with weird people all the time. Although that person's head is bald like you, it doesn't mean that he's a vegetarian monk like you." The little monk immediately nods his head and repeatedly complains. "Guangguang secretly drank wine yesterday. Drinking wine and eating meat, he's really not cut out to be a monk." With this interruption, Guangguang Darren immediately forgets what he wanted to say to the woman. He jumps up and angrily shouts, "Who wants to be a monk like you? Who told you that I'm a monk?" Inexplicable. This family is really inexplicable. Crown Prince and Crown Princess are not normal. Mo, who is in soul state, is also not normal. Little monkey, little monk, and so on are all abnormal. Other than Guangguang Darren, there are no normal people here. Arbor takes out a carrot and feeds it to the little monk. "Where do you want to go to play? Let's go shopping." The little monk's eyes are sparkling. "Amitba, although this little monk doesn't like shopping, I can accompany mother to go out for a walk." Kai Xiu almost faints from this little imp's smile. With that serious little appearance, he doesn't like shopping? Wherever there's a lively atmosphere, that's exactly what they're talking about. "It's been a long time since we went to Kaidai Pavilion to eat. How about I take you to Kaidai Pavilion for a meal?" Everyone raises their hands and feet in agreement. No matter where they went, it was better than being cooped up in the house. Kai Xiu took the clothes handed to her by the maidservants and helped Arbor put them on. Then she said with a smile, "His Highness the Crown Prince left the city early this morning. If His Highness were here, he would be able to accompany the Crown Princess out for a walk. Yeah, today's weather is really good. All right, it's already noon. What's the point of going for a walk? Forget it. Besides, the cold wind was howling, and it was almost the end of the year. It was better to wait until spring came before going for a stroll. Female benefactor. Arbor raised his hand and pinched Kongkong's little face. You have to call me mother. If you call me mother again, I'll beat you up. Lord Guangguang hurriedly squeezed to the little monk's side and slandered. Look, look, this mother of yours likes to use violence to make people submit. Xiao Sang Apui. Guangguang Darren had also been beaten by her before. Kong Kong took advantage of the fact that he was half a head taller than Sir Guangguang and looked down from above. He raised his hand and patted Sir Guangguang's bald head. Amitba, children should be obedient. Nyangqin hitting you is also a kind of expression of love. What? Sir Guangguang almost fainted from anger because of the little monk. What the hell? Does this child know how to speak? Also, what kind of action was that just now? That action of patting his head, he did it so skillfully. Chapter 52-35. Holy shit, I'm a 10,000-year-old senior, yet I'm being touched on the head by a 5-year-old. Does it have to be so ridiculous? Arbor put on a thick cloak and looked at herself in the mirror. She raised her hand to pinch her face. I've gotten fat. Master, last time, Crown Prince already said that you've gotten so fat that you look like a ball. The little tray ant jumped onto her shoulder and said, You've realized it yourself, haven't you? Arbor looked at him expressionlessly. What did I realize? I realized. Cho-Cho, you like to jump around so much. No wonder Jojo's lotus threw you out again and again. Master. Cho-Cho looked at his little master gloomily. You love Crown Prince more than Cho-Cho. Arbor was speechless. She pulled the 2 tender leaves on top of his head. All right, I'll take you out with me. The little tray ant danced on Arbor's head and shouted, Is there anything fun? Is there anything fun? Yes, there's a shadow play troupe that came to the capital recently. They have 5 shadow plays every day. Really? The little monkey was also energized when he heard this. He ran up and asked, What play? What play? 5 plays a day, and each play is different. You'll only know what to play when you go. Arbor couldn't help but laugh. Seeing the group in high spirits, she agreed to take them to eat first, then to watch the shadow play. Everyone went out noisily. Since they weren't in a hurry, they simply got into a carriage and headed towards Changle Street in a lively manner. After leaving the Eastern Palace, Arbor hesitated for a moment. She lifted the curtain and looked outside, her eyes narrowed. What's wrong, Crown Princess? Nothing. Arbor lowered the curtain, a cold smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. If she hadn't sensed wrongly just now, then someone was secretly watching the Eastern Palace gate. What were they watching for? Arbor raised a small hand and gently touched his stomach. At the same time, 2 men dressed as passers-by standing guard outside the Eastern Palace looked at each other. One of them lowered his voice and said, Hurry up and inform them. Our people haven't acted according to plan, and the Crown Princess has already come out. The other person nodded and then laughed in a low voice. Isn't that just right? It saves us a lot of trouble. Originally, he still had to think about how to reasonably lure the little Crown Princess out of the depths of the palace. He might even have to make a trip to the Chow estate. But now everything was going smoothly. This was a good start. It seemed like there was hope for today's matter to succeed. Crown Princess, your cultivation is much higher than ours. Was there something watching us in the dark just now? Kai Chi asked in a low voice in the carriage. Her expression was grave. Don't worry, we'll deal with whatever comes our way. Whoever comes looking for trouble won't have a good ending. Kai Chi's heart calmed down a little. Speaking of which, there really wasn't anyone in this world who could escape unscathed after provoking the little Crown Princess. Arbor smiled and called out, You ba! A black shadow appeared at the window of the carriage, and a low voice sounded, Crown Princess, what are your orders? Is there any movement in front of the Chow estate? Just now, my subordinates sent word that there were hidden sentries watching the Chow estate, but now they've all retreated. Chapter 52-36. Arbor's lips curled into a sneer as he muttered to himself, It seems that there are people who aren't afraid of death coming to make trouble. Since that was the case, then she would send them off so that they could reunite in the underworld. It was almost the new year, so it would be more lively and not too lonely. On the other side, Mu Xiaoxue, who was waiting for news, was pacing back and forth anxiously like an ant on a hot pan. The number of guards at the Chao estate's entrance suddenly increased? Is it because that brainless second concubine and young miss of Count Huainan estate went to the Chao estate to make trouble yesterday? That's why the number of guards in front of their door suddenly increased. Miss Xiaoxue, there's no need to worry. Qin Chao smiled as he pushed the door open. We can set off now, Miss Xiaoxue. Mu Xiaoxue frowned. Didn't we agree to lure them to the Chao estate? This woman was now deep in the palace. They couldn't find the exit even if they wanted to make trouble. Only by luring them out to Changle Street could they make their move. Moreover, they had already arranged all the hidden sentries and people, intending to make this matter as big as possible. No need. Qin Chao waved his hand, smiling and scrupulously. Today's matter is exceptionally smooth. The crown princess left the palace on her own, and she came out in a carriage. Our hidden sentries reported that the carriage is heading in the direction of Changle Street. And it's the busiest and most lively area, near Kaidai Pavilion. Ha ha ha. Mu Xiaoxue couldn't help but laugh. My goodness, even the heavens are helping us. Gui Xuan also smiled and said, Junior sister, I wish that we will be victorious on this trip. Qin Chao's eyes turned, faintly looking at Mu Xiaoxue. Miss Xiaoxue, we can set off now. If we go now, we can coincidentally meet that person's carriage. Mu Xiaoxue smiled confidently. The crown princess of Shenzhou, the future mistress of Shenzhou. Are you ready to die? Mu Xiaoxue's eyes shot out a poisonous light. Mississippi. The streets are so lively. Little Monkey leaned against the window, looking at the people coming and going outside, and couldn't help but sigh. It's almost the new year. Everyone has to come out to buy things. In another 2 days, the streets will be even busier. Is the new year fun? Little Monkey asked curiously. Of course it's fun. Arbor raised his hand and stroked her hair. This year we'll spend the new year in the palace. At that time we'll bring my father and mother in. Let's celebrate the new year together. When Little Monkey heard the word lively, his eyes couldn't help but smile. A spirit horse pulled their carriage and walked slowly on Changle Street. When they reached a crowded place, the carriage slowed down even more. Seeing the Kaidai loft from afar, the Little Monkey pointed at the signboard and shouted, Little sister, is this the place? I can read Kaidai Veranda. Yes, let's get off the car. Kai Chi nodded with a smile and pulled Little Monkey up, just as the group was about to step off the carriage one by one. Who would have thought that waves of exclamations could be heard from outside? A cold glint flashed across Arbor's face as he ordered, Kill whoever dares to come. Yes. Yu Ba and the others replied in a low voice. Then, there was a brief moment of chaos on the street. A carriage barged in from the corner of the street. Just as it was about to collide with Arbor's carriage, it was quickly stopped by a few hidden guards. Chapter 52-37. The shadow guards swung their swords down without hesitation, flipping the carriage over with a few strikes. At this time, people were coming and going on the street, and it was quite lively. Seeing this situation, the crowd dodged to the sides. The crowd looked up and saw that the roofs of the 2 carriages beside them had been blown off. Pieces of wood fell down, and there was a hurried scream from the carriage. Then, the 2 people in the carriage flipped out. The first to stumble out was a handsome young man. His movements were quite vigorous. When he turned around, he wrapped his arms around a young lady who had rolled out behind him and caught her in his arms. The 2 of them hugged each other in public with their skin touching. The one hugging was naturally Gu Yixuan, and the one in his arms was Mu Xiaoxue. Gu Yixuan hugged Mu Xiaoxue. His blood was boiling as he hugged his beloved junior sister. He spun around in the air before landing on the ground beautifully. At this time, the carriage in Arbor had already stopped. The passers-by also hid at the side and stopped to watch. Seeing this scene, Many aunts and uncles couldn't help but point at Gui Xuan and Mu Xiaoxue, who were hugging each other, and whispered in secret. Although the laws between men and women were not that strict in China, no well-educated girl would hug a man on the street. "This is indecent," a middle-aged woman said with a twitch of her mouth. "Isn't that so? Look at her dress, she's a girl. How can she casually hug a man like this?" Everyone was cursing and scolding as they surrounded the carriage and pointed at it. Mu Xiaoxue only felt flustered and hurriedly pushed Gui Xuan. "Senior brother Gu, let me down first." Gui Xuan was originally restless, but when he heard Mu Xiaoxue's words and saw the disdainful looks of the ignorant people around him, he didn't dare to act rashly and quickly let go of Mu Xiaoxue's hand. Mu Xiaoxue hurriedly tidied her clothes, coughed lightly, and turned her head. Her eyes met with the little crown princess's cold and heartless dark eyes in the carriage. His eyes were as deep as the abyss, staring at her without blinking. His emotionless appearance made Mu Xiaoxue shudder violently. "Stay calm, stay calm. You must stay calm." Recalling what family head Qin had asked her to do, Mu Xiaoxue repeatedly warned herself. She took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. Yes, he had to be calm. He had to be calm. He couldn't be afraid and he couldn't retreat. Mu Xiaoxue had no way out. Where could he retreat to? The luck transfer talisman was still waiting for him. He absolutely could not retreat. Retreating was a fate worse than death. Mu Xiaoxue took a step forward, organized her words, and put on a stiff smile. "My daughter, Mu Xiaoxue, greets the crown princess." As soon as these words were spoken, the people on the streets and alleys almost fled. The little crown princess was here. Some of the commoners who had never seen the little crown princess before were all muttering in their hearts. Even if they hadn't seen the crown princess before, her great name was like thunder in their ears. The little crown princess's ruthless methods and her ruthlessness were also widely known among the commoners. There was even a saying among the commoners that no one should look at the crown princess. They firmly remembered this saying. When they saw the crown princess, what they should do was run. Some of the commoners hurriedly covered their heads and ran. However, when they ran to the end of the street, they bumped into the barrier. Chapter 52:38. Can't get out? Why is there a barrier here? Everyone retreated in confusion. Is this the legendary risking one's life to watch a show? The little crown princess didn't know what happened to these strange people. She only stared coldly at Mu Xiaoxue for a long time. She slowly opened her mouth and said coldly, "Are you here to die today?" On the other side, Qi Xianxian and Jolin were strolling along Changle Street, picking out little sugar figurines from a candy stall. "What's going on? Why is there a barrier here?" Qi Xianxian turned around and walked a few steps. She frowned and reached out to touch the air in front of her. A ripple of water flowed in front of her. A barrier really appeared where she touched. What's going on? What's going on? Shaolin pinched two little sugar figurines and ran to Qi Xuanxuan's side. She happened to see the two people shaking their heads dejectedly as they turned around. "Hey, stop! What are you two doing?" Jolin stopped them out of curiosity. The two people sighed and said, "You must have realized that we can't get out now. We are forced to go back and watch the crown princess." Sigh. The other person had the word, listless, written all over his body. "Are you forcing us to risk our lives to watch the show?" "Actually, we don't want to watch, but we can't get out now. What else can we do but watch?" Shaolin couldn't help but twitch her mouth. "Uncle, you actually really want to watch this show, right? Why are you speaking so pitifully? Actually, you don't have to go back. You can just stand here. This kind of barrier will disappear on its own in 2 to 4 hours. The two of them rubbed their noses in embarrassment when their thoughts were exposed. "What?" Qi Xianxian was stunned. "Where is the crown princess? Isn't she at the entrance of Kaidai Pavilion? She is surrounded by so many people." One of the uncle pointed forward and said kindly, "Two young ladies, you are still young. It's best that you don't risk your lives to watch the show." Qi Xuanxuan's eyebrows twitched. She turned her head and waved at her friends who were dozing off on the doorstep. Fatty, Mata, Luyu, come over quickly. The little fatty, Ko Hongwen, immediately jumped up and ran to Xian Xian's side. Wife, what orders do you have? Do I have to pay for it? Here, here. Give you a head. Amused, Qi Xian patted his arm and said, Someone has secretly blocked off the road to Changle Street. I reckon they have set up barriers on both the front and back streets. They seem to be targeting Jojo. What? Who would be so bold as to secretly mess with our Jojo? Ko Hongwen was furious. His other friends who were slowly walking over heard him and immediately gathered around. What happened? Let's go and take a look at the entrance of the Kaidai Pavilion. Where's Jojo? Jojo has arrived at Kaidai Pavilion? Qi Xian nodded. She wrapped up the few sweets in her hands and shouted, Fatty, pay up! Then, she led her group of friends and angrily ran towards the entrance of Kaidai Pavilion. Who would be so bold as to cause trouble for their Jojo? They must be tired of living. That's good too. Mata stretched his limbs and said cheekily, I haven't moved since I came out of seclusion. Today, I should be able to find someone to loosen up my muscles. Chapter 52-39. Who would have thought that Mu Xiaoxue would be the one to barge in? She had been worried that she wouldn't be able to find her mother, and now she had delivered herself to her doorstep. Arbor sneered, a cold glint flashing across his eyes. Since she had delivered herself to her doorstep, then he would reluctantly teach her a lesson on behalf of Mu Qingya. Arbor glanced behind him, and two shadow guards rushed forward, about to attack Mu Xiaoxue. Guishuan quickly stepped in front of Mu Xiaoxue and pointed his sword at the two shadow guards, shouting, Stop! How could the two shadow guards listen to him? They glanced at the sword in his hand with disdain. One of the shadow guards didn't move, but the sword in Gu Yishuan's hand suddenly caught fire. The fire burned up his arm in an instant. Gu Yishuan was so frightened that he hurriedly threw his sword to the ground and patted his sleeves. Everyone only heard a clang sound. He looked down and saw that the sword had been melted by the bright yellow fire, leaving only half of the sword hilt. It crackled under the sparks from time to time. Everyone was stunned and looked up at Gu Yishuan, whose face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Mu Xiaoxue only felt a trace of anger rush up to her chest. Damn it! He really knew how to embarrass himself. What use could he have if he couldn't even hold his own sword? He was no different from that Zhao Yi. They were all trash, useless trash, useless trash. Mu Xiaoxue was furious, but she still had to put on that elegant and refined smile on her face. Senior brother Gu, don't get into a conflict with the crown princess. It's just a small misunderstanding between us. It'll be fine as long as we clear things up. Mu Xiaoxue called out softly and gave Gu Yishuan a gentle push. Gu Yishuan hurried down the slope and muttered, Little junior sister, you're so kind. You can talk to her. Mu Xiaoxue clenched her fists in anger and coldly watched the man retreat behind her. She cursed Gu Yishuan's 18 generations of ancestors in her heart. Unexpectedly, among the onlookers, a middle-aged woman laughed. Ha, young man, I advise you to go back quickly. If you want to learn how to be a hero and save a damsel in distress, then you need to have real ability. Exactly. Everyone chattered and laughed. You can't even last one move in front of our crown prince consort subordinate. Young man, don't try to show off. Hurry and take your whatever junior sister and scram with your tail between your legs. Everyone burst into laughter. This was the scene that Qi Xian saw when she pulled Shaoliner over. He could not help but ask curiously, what's wrong with these people? Why do they all seem to be on Jojo's side? Little fatty Ko Hongwen couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. He muttered softly, We have to help even if we don't want to. Our family's Chow isn't a good person. If they don't help her and get beaten up, no one can save them. What are you talking about? Qi Xian immediately raised her voice. She hated it the most when people said that her family's Chow was tough. Not even little fatty. Her family's Chow was the most kind-hearted little fairy in the world. There was a soft spot in her heart. Humph, she was not the fierce little devil that people said she was. Little fatty hurriedly chuckled. Nothing, nothing. I'm just saying that Jojo is very pretty. Look, from afar, Jojo's stomach is so big. Do you think it's a twin? Chapter 5240. Qi Xianxian immediately shook her head. That's impossible. Jojo herself is an outstanding pill master. If it were twins, she would have told us long ago. That's true. The little fatty, Ko Hongwen, had finally gotten over the previous matter. He grinned as he followed beside his wife. Wife, don't call me that. Qi Xianxian pursed her lips and secretly glanced at him. However, she couldn't suppress the sweet smile on her face. Who's calling you that? Our wedding is almost on schedule. It'll be soon. Let's call you in advance, he. Humph. Qi Xianxian pulled Shaoliner over and pointed to the front. Over there, over there. Let's go and take a look. When the group arrived at Kaidai Pavilion, they heard Gu Yishuan angrily shouting at the people around him. What do you know? Who asked you to talk nonsense? Senior brother. Mu Xiaoshua's tone became more serious as she glared at Gu Yishuan. Why was she talking nonsense with these ignorant people? She still had serious matters to attend to. When Gu Yishuan saw Mu Xiaoshua's gaze, his mind became clearer. He nodded and retreated to the side. However, his eyes were still fiercely glaring at the women who were mocking him. The little crown princess sat upright in the carriage. Behind her, a row of little radish heads were curiously looking at Mu Xiaoshue and the others. Woman, do you need this lord's help? Lord Guangguang shouted. The little monk raised his hand and patted his head. Don't call mother a woman. Is she not a woman? Lord Guangguang angrily brushed away the little monk's hand. I'm seriously warning you. Don't touch my head again. Your head is very similar to mine. Kong Kong had a serious expression. When I touch your head, it feels like I'm touching my own. Kai Xiu almost laughed out loud. She hurriedly went forward and pulled the two little radish heads to her side. She reached out and covered the little monk's mouth. Don't be noisy. The crown princess is doing something serious. You two shouldn't go over and cause trouble. Oh! Lady Guangguang curled her lips and unwillingly crawled back 2 steps, sitting beside Kai Xiu and the others. Mu Xiaoshua bowed to Arbor again. Crown Princess, long time no see. The last time we met was in the underground black market of Jiawei City, right? Wow! Is there something wrong with you? The little monkey blinked his eyes and could not help but cry out. Not long ago, I saw you at the River of Forgetfulness. Back in the Fecta secret realm, weren't you chased and beaten by that big sister? Have you forgotten? Mu Xiaoshue was so angry that she almost vomited blood. The last thing she wanted to talk about was the Fecta secret realm. That evil woman from Arbor had chased after her and Luo, his group with teleportation talismans. She had beaten them until they had no choice but to give up everything in the secret realm and escape with the stairway talisman. This incident made her deeply realize that it was impossible to achieve anything without strength. This evil woman before her had relied on her strength to bully others. Bully an ordinary woman like her who had no cultivation at all. It was simply hateful to the extreme. Mu Xiaoshua fiercely glared at the little monkey and said coldly, "Children, don't interrupt. I have something to say to your sister." Little monkey curled his lips and looked unhappy. Arbor patted her and comforted the little monkey. She then turned to look at Mu Xiaoshue with a cold smile. Chapter 5241. Your mother, how is she? When Mu Xiaoshue heard the woman in front of her ask about her mother, she immediately thought of her mother's scrawny and terrifying appearance. She was good? What was good about her? Her mother was almost tortured to death by them, and this was considered good? Mu Xiaoshue forcibly suppressed her anger and put on a bright and gentle smile. Mother, she's fine. She practically squeezed the word fine out of her teeth. What was fine? Not at all. This was all thanks to Arbor, who had tortured her mother so many times, causing her mother to end up like this. This vicious woman, why didn't the heavens just strike her with lightning and kill her? The heavens were indeed unfair. Arbor, this vicious woman, had done all kinds of bad things, and even treated her, an ordinary person, so ruthlessly and viciously. Why was the heavens still unwilling to accept her? Why? Mu Xiaoxue clenched her fists tightly and smiled carelessly, pretending not to care. She asked gently, I wonder if the crown princess still remembers what happened in Joe City? At that time, you participated in the Academy's Tianyuan ranking finals and went to Joe City. Do you still remember? Hearing her mention Joe City several times, Arbor's heart skipped a beat. He looked Mu Xiaoxue up and down. Mu Xiaoxue, as a disciple of Tianyuan, what do you want to do by appearing so openly in my Dragon Flame City? Provoking the imperial power? Or provoking me? Wow! Hearing the crown princess's words, the crowd immediately burst into an uproar. Everyone cursed at the same time. She's from Tianyuan? What? I really couldn't tell that such a weak and delicate girl is actually a member of that evil organization. Tianyun? She's not a corpse puppet, is she? Wow! This corpse puppet has evolved into such a dignified appearance. Fuck! She's mixed in with the crowd. A corpse puppet is no different from us. Who was a corpse puppet again? Mu Xiaoxue was so angry at those foolish commoners that she was about to ascend to the heavens. Originally, she had gathered these spectators for the next stage of her show, who knew that these onlookers would not cooperate with her performance at all. Not only that, they would stand on the crown princess side all day long and criticize them. Damn it, why hasn't there been any movement from the hidden sentries and agents they planted among the crowd? Mu Xiaoxue glanced at Qin Chao. Qin Chao gestured at her and nodded silently. Mu Xiaoxue's heart immediately relaxed. No problem. Zither Grass had already arranged everything. They just had to wait for the show to begin. Mu Xiaoxue took a deep breath and instantly squeezed out 2 drops of tears. She cried pitifully, Crown Princess, why are you slandering my daughter? My daughter is just an ordinary girl with no cultivation at all. Why do you want to frame my daughter and say that I'm a heavenly fate disciple? Your mother, Mu Qingya, is the hall master of the heavenly fate flying heavens hall. Everyone knows this. Arbor smiled coldly and interrupted her sobbing. What are you trying to do? Why don't you get straight to the point? Mu Xiaoxue secretly gritted her teeth. Crown Princess, if I speak too harshly, you'll definitely think that I'm talking back to you. But this matter, then don't talk about it. Arbor waved his hand and gave the 2 hidden guards a look. The 2 immediately understood and reached out to grab Mu Xiaoxue without hesitation. Chapter 52-42. Mu Xiaoxue was so flustered that her expression changed. She knew very well that if she were to fall into the hands of the crown princess, she would definitely suffer. Qin Chao frowned and flew up to stop the 2 shadow guards. He turned around and shouted at Mu Xiaoxue, What are you blabbering about? Hurry up and get to the point. She was about to be beaten to death by the little crown princess, yet she was still blabbering over there. He really didn't know what the family head saw in this girl. How could she be someone who knew how to act? She was more like a hypocrite. Crown Princess, don't avoid answering. Mu Xiaoxue shouted. You should remember the incident at Joe City very clearly. That day you beat up an Hanji from Medicine King Island. It was that day there were zombies. Her voice came to an abrupt halt. She turned around and saw that it was a bystander who took off his shoe and threw it at her head. Heavens, that was a smelly shoe. He actually threw it at her beautiful, intelligent, generous, and gentle Mu Xiaoxue's head. Mu Xiaoxue's expression immediately changed, and she couldn't help but scream. When the bystanders saw her like this, they pointed at her and scolded her. The daughter of the Tianyun Hall's head still dares to question the crown princess here. What do you want to question? You people from Tianyun have done all kinds of bad things. Do you not care about your own lives at all? No, listen to me, listen to me. Mu Xiaoxue shouted, but before she could speak, she was splashed with a basin of unknown water, drenching her from head to toe. Ah! Ah! Mu Xiaoxue screamed and jumped up, unable to bear it any longer. She jumped up and down and screamed like a madwoman. She simply couldn't stand these stupid good-for-nothings anymore. What were these people doing here? If you want to watch the show, then just watch the show. Why are you acting crazy? One moment they threw a smelly shoe at her, the next they splashed her with some kind of foot-washing water. Ah, heavens! What kind of unruly people were these? Mu Xiaoxue hurriedly tidied up her wet hair. After her hair was splashed with water, she shook her hair and suddenly felt that her entire head smelled like salted fish. Mu Xiaoxue was on the verge of death. She suddenly pointed at the woman who had splashed the water and yelled, "Kill her! Kill her!" Everyone was shocked by her. The woman with the empty basin took a few steps back and looked at Mu Xiaoxue in horror. Mu Xiaoxue's face was contorted. At that moment, Mu Xiaoxue's entire body seemed to have contorted. Her face was filled with rage and murderous intent. Everyone was so frightened that they couldn't help but retreat. Arbor looked coldly at the disheveled Mu Xiaoxue and smirked. He had no one to blame but himself for his own humiliation. She raised her hand slightly, and dozens of secret guards appeared out of thin air, blocking the crowd of onlookers. The little crown princess said coldly, "No one can kill the innocent on the streets of my imperial city." The crowd of onlookers seemed to have eaten a calming pill. Only then did they put away their panicked expressions and exclaimed excitedly, "Crown Princess! Crown Princess! Crown Princess!" Mu Xiaoxue was so angry that her nose was about to become crooked. What was she doing here today? Was she here to establish the little crown princess's prestige among the people? No, 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 no. Why did things take such a sudden turn and become like this? It was all that crown princess's fault. Damn it! She didn't give her a chance to finish her words. This wretched woman, this vicious, wretched woman. Did she think that she had one? Today, she would definitely ruin her reputation and consign her to eternal damnation. Chapter 52-43. At the same time, outside the western suburbs of Dragon Flame City, Emolienne jumped down from her horse and bent down to touch the weeds by the road. With a single touch, the originally emerald green vegetation immediately withered and rotted. Xiaoyi hurriedly asked, "Your Highness, is this the effect of the medicine?" Emolienne nodded slightly. "This area is full of poisonous weeds. It was just that they had no effect on him. His medicine was about to break through to the god level, and under the catalysis of the ancient Emolienne, his medicine had also improved greatly. He was just short of an opportunity, or perhaps an epiphany. He could successfully advance to a god-level apothecary. Indeed, this opportunity was something that could only be encountered and not sought after. But now, the concentration of his medicine was basically comparable to that of a god-level apothecary. However, he did not know if there were any god-level apothecaries in this world. After all, it seemed that there were very few heaven-level apothecaries in the 3 continents. Poisonous plants and flowers like this were no longer of any use to him. On the contrary, once they came into contact with his medicine, they would wither and curl up endlessly. This was the terrifying part of the medicine's reverse nourishment. Not only could he reverse poison these things to death, but he could also absorb part of the essence of these poisonous weeds and flowers. The neurotoxin devil grass that Ding Ting Ding used to poison him could no longer have any effect on him. "Look around." Emolienne waved her hand and asked Xiaoyi to lead the group to pour tea. "Have you all taken the antidote pills? Be careful." "Yes, sir." The crowd dispersed. After half a cup of tea, they quickly gathered back. Xiaoyi cupped his hands and said, "Your Highness, after crossing a collapsed mountain in front, we will reach the thatched forest. That ruined temple is on the abandoned slope outside the thatched forest." "What's a collapsed mountain?" Emolienne frowned. "Your Highness, it should be the Dou family's residence. East Peak Mountain." "Oh," the Crown Prince nodded. "Is it the mountain that Duanmuqing and the others went to the 5 spirits reincarnation and flattened?" "Exactly, Your Highness," Xiaoyi replied meticulously. "This subordinate has gone to take a look. The mountaintop is completely bald. It's just that the Dou family's residences are all located halfway up the mountain. so the impact shouldn't be too great. It's just a bare mountaintop. It looks funny. Crown Prince glared at Xiao Yi. You talk too much. Does this prince need you to explain so much? Xiao Yi immediately shut his mouth and looked around, but he did not speak for a long time. If you have something to say, just say it. Prince Mo, who couldn't stand this pretentious act, glared at his subordinate. Xiao Yi hurriedly said, Your Highness, I've taken a look. There's a small town with white households over at the thatched forest. It's less than 10 li away from the ruined temple. Do you think these residents will be killed? Mo Lien frowned. Bring some people with you to take a look. Remember not to alert the enemy. He had to go back and discuss this matter with his wife first. All right, I'll get to work now. Xiao Yi hurriedly waved his hand and had the Night Pavilion disciples gather by his side. Your Highness, you should go back as well. It's getting late. After dinner, the Crown Princess should be thinking about you. Mo Lien deeply agreed. The little Crown Princess would think about her husband every time she ate. This habit was really too good. As expected, she was a baby that he raised single-handedly. How wonderful! Prince Mo glanced at his subordinates and turned to mount his horse. Chapter 52-44. Then you guys take care of it. This crown prince will be returning first. He wondered if his wife was getting impatient from waiting in the palace and had to hurry home to eat with his wife. Respectfully sending off Your Highness the Crown Prince. Xiao Yi and the others secretly laughed as they lowered their heads. Prince Mo pretended not to hear their laughter as he rode his horse and rushed towards the city. It was all because of Tian Yun's wild ambition. It was almost the New Year's Day and he didn't have any idle days to pass. He was busy all day, busy settling the accounts. Now, he even had to go to Zhaoguang's headquarters to check. He was so busy that he was like a spinning top, unable to turn around. If it wasn't for Tian Yun playing tricks all day at this time, he should be by his wife's side at all times. Accompanying her and baby Mo Lien urged his horse all the way back to the city and hurriedly rushed towards the palace. He galloped all the way to Changle Street. When he was about to turn the corner, he heard the spirit horse suddenly neigh and almost stood up. Mo Lien slightly knitted his brows and reached out to press down on the reins, pressing down this restless spirit horse. The spirit horse snorted and tested the edge with its hooves. Mo Lien waved his hand and a black flame suddenly broke through the barrier in front of him. A faint buzzing sound suddenly rang out in the air. He actually didn't know that on the way back to the palace there was a man-made barrier here. He really had big dog guts. At the same time, just as the Crown Prince was about to use brute force to break through the barrier, suddenly, two people in the crowd spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood and fell to the ground. The spectators were originally enthusiastically shouting for the Crown Princess, Crown Princess. In the end, they were shocked by this unforeseen event and hurriedly separated to the sides. 2 pale-faced young men kneeling on the ground appeared in front of the crowd and fell into the young Crown Princess line of sight. Ha ha, ha, backlash. Ha ha. Qi Xianxian laughed in schadenfreude. She pointed at the 2 youths and laughed. So it's you guys. You set up a barrier on Changle Street. It seems like the barrier was broken from the outside. Ha 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 ha. What a joke. If he wasn't strong enough, why did he have to set up a barrier? In the end, he still ended up getting slapped in the face. Ko Hongwen's eyes lit up. Maybe the Crown Prince is back. Just now, he had seen that the barrier was quite sturdy. It should be a barrier set up by more than 1 7th level God Realm expert. To be able to break through the barrier of 2 Deity Realm experts in one fell swoop, this terrifying strength was probably only His Highness the Crown Prince. At this moment, the 2 Deity Realm experts actually spat out blood and fainted on the ground. It could be seen that when the person broke through the barrier, he intentionally added something. The backlash directly knocked out the 2 Deity Realm experts. Terrifying. Qin Grass shuddered slightly and hurriedly gave Mu Xiaoxue, who was stunned on the spot, a wink. Quick, quick, quick. If they didn't hurry, they might not even have the chance to retreat once the powerful enemy broke through the barrier and invaded. He had to quickly finish what he had to say and quickly retreat. The people needed time to think. These ignorant and unruly people would know who was the human and who was the ghost. Mu Xiaoxue understood and nodded. Suddenly, she opened her arms and shouted sternly, "Listen to me! Listen to me! All of you quiet down and listen to me!" At this moment, she didn't care that she was drenched from head to toe and that she smelled like salted fish. She also didn't talk to the young crown princess any more so that she wouldn't be angered to death by her words. Chapter 52:45. She continued to speak as she took out a sound-amplifying profound artifact and shouted, "You've all been deceived, citizens. You've all been deceived by this sanctimonious woman in front of you. Do you know? This woman, although she's not an apothecary, she has medicine to treat corpse poison. She has it. When she was in Joey City, she saved one of her companions in front of countless people," Mu Xiaoxue said. As soon as Xiao Xiaoshua's voice was heard, a shill hiding in the crowd immediately stepped forward and shouted, "Yes, that's right. Yes, now that Miss Xiaoxue mentioned it, I also remember that I was also in Joey City at that time. The corpse puppets in the city were in chaos and everyone was panicking. At that time, one of the crown princess companions was fighting with a corpse puppet and was accidentally bitten on the wrist by a corpse puppet." "That's right, that's right." A few uneven voices sounded from the east and west of the crowd. Arbor couldn't help but smile. "Oh? When Joey City was in chaos, you all saw it very clearly. You even remembered her name clearly. Miss Xiaoxue, you call her so intimately." The voices of the shills suddenly stopped. Mu Xiaoxue braced herself and continued, "You don't need to change the topic. What we're talking about now is that you have a sacred medicine that can cure corpse poison. Do you admit it? Do you admit that you have a medicine that can cure corpse poison? But you're a sanctimonious, selfish, and hypocritical woman. You never thought of sharing this sacred medicine with the world. You secretly hid it and didn't take out the sacred medicine to save more ordinary people. You just watched as the citizens of the 3 continents were plagued by corpse poison and walked the path of corpse puppets, turning into walking corpses. You could have saved them. You venomous woman." Arbor curled his lips and casually glanced at Mu Xiaoxue. So this was the big show they were talking about? That's right, once the sacred medicine was exposed, the citizens would resent the crown princess who had the sacred medicine but refused to take it out. Everyone was like that. As long as the matter did not fall on him, it did not matter what happened. Once something happened to him, saving his own life would become their only goal. Now, there was a saintly medicine that could save all of their lives, but the crown princess was still hiding it, unwilling to take it out. This was selfishness, this was inhumane, and would indeed incite public anger, even if she used her martial prowess to suppress everyone present today. However, she believed that the news would spread to every corner of the 3 continents by the next day. She, Arbor, would become the most vicious woman in the 3 continents. A sinner. But did she really have the ability to save so many people? She didn't. Although it was very frustrating, this was the truth. She was powerless to save everyone present. After so many days, only one holy fruit was produced. Coincidentally, it was given to Duanmu Qing. If it wasn't for such a coincidence, Duanmu Qing's life would have been in danger. He might have had to do as he had thought and sacrifice himself to save his own life. Taking a step back, if the holy fruit could be mass-produced in her heart, she was unwilling to do so. That was because she had to consider whether her most important companion, Qiuqiu, could produce holy fruits without restraint. Chapter 52:46. Would such an action have any negative effects on it? If it would affect or hurt Qiuqiu, then sorry, she would never sacrifice Qiuqiu's life for the so-called common people. She wasn't that noble. She was just an ordinary girl from the start. That was all. Actually, she had already discovered that if the holy fruit was cut open and consumed with water, there would be some effects. However, it couldn't completely cure the poison, and the effects were completely different from consuming the holy fruit. After the holy fruit was cut open and consumed, it still needed to be combined with the medicinal effects of a high-level medicine master. It could extend the life of others for another year or so. That was all. Furthermore, she had never said that she was the savior of the world. She couldn't selflessly sacrifice Chocho's life to save the common people. It would take some time to develop a cure for this poison. Not now, and definitely not to sacrifice Chocho's life. Qi Xianxian and the others all realized that something was amiss and hurriedly ran forward to surround the young crown prince consort. They glared fiercely at those restless commoners. "Do you want to die?" "Don't do anything," Arbor said calmly. Although she wasn't a particularly selfless person, she still had a bottom line. At least, she wouldn't let her friends kill these defenseless commoners. She couldn't do it. Human nature was selfish. She knew all about it, and she couldn't withstand any probing or attempts. These people knew that she had the holy medicine and wanted to have it to save their lives. Their original intentions weren't wrong. However, they were no match for her. Mu Xiaoxue had grown a brain. She really did a great job today. She exposed her possession of the holy medicine in front of so many people, forcing her to submit or not submit. No matter what she did, she would suffer great losses. It was impossible for her to submit. If she didn't submit, then she would definitely become the public enemy of the people of the 3 continents. She would become a vicious woman. What a good plan, as expected of Mu Qingya's daughter. "Who said that the crown princess has the holy medicine?" A cold voice came from outside. Prince Mo galloped over on his horse and dismounted from a distance. He did not rush straight into the crowd. He leaped off the horse's back, and in a flash, he was already beside the young crown princess. "You people, after listening to Tianyun's lackeys blabbering here, you immediately feel that the crown princess has mistreated you?" Mo Lien said coldly. "Whoever suspects that the crown princess has the holy medicine, stand out. Your Highness, Xiao Shui knows that you want to protect the crown princess." But before Mu Xiaoxue could finish her words, she felt a huge force hitting her chest. Qin Grass's pupils shrank. He knew that if he didn't make a move now, Mu Xiaoxue, an ordinary person, wouldn't be able to survive this attack. However, even with his strength, he might not be able to survive the crown prince's attack. But Mu Xiaoxue had to be saved. He hurriedly shouted, "Mr. Mu, what are you waiting for?" His figure flashed as he grabbed Mu Xiaoxue and fled. At the same time, Mu Jingfeng roared angrily and suddenly blocked in front of the two of them. He turned his hand and pushed out a tyrannical divine power to collide with the attack. With a loud bang, Mu Jingfeng stumbled back a few steps with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. Fortunately, his body had been modified to have copper skin and iron bones, so he could still withstand it. Chapter 52-47. Mu Jingfeng. Mo Lien pulled Xiao Mu along and cast him a glance, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. Arbor also coldly stared at the man in front of him, his gaze sweeping over him. What a Mu Jingfeng, he actually dared to appear in front of them. After he failed to encircle and annihilate the Mu estate with his men, he had been hiding his head and tail for quite a while. Who would have thought that he would actually appear here at this moment? Moreover, his strength had greatly increased, and he was actually able to receive one of Mo Lien's moves. Arbor turned to look at her husband. Mo Lien nodded slightly at her. He should have used Tianyun's medicine to completely transform him. "I remember that I used sacred fire to burn his legs last time." "That's impossible." Xiao Mu grasped the situation at once. How could his legs suddenly turn for the better after being burned by the black fire? Moreover, looking at Mu Jingfeng's current appearance, it seemed as if nothing had happened at all. His entire person even exuded a strange glow. "Arbor, you didn't expect this, did you?" Mu Jingfeng's voice was abnormally loud and clear. "You didn't expect that I would be able to walk in front of you alive and come to see you, right?" Mu Jingfeng glared at his daughter with a face full of hatred, emitting a trace of ruthlessness from head to toe. His gaze didn't seem like he was looking at his own daughter at all. It was as if he was looking at a mortal enemy. In the depths of his eyes, there wasn't a trace of friendship toward his daughter. There was only an overflowing hatred and murderous intent. Arbor couldn't be bothered to look at him. Deep down, she already knew what kind of person Mu Jingfeng was. Thus, even when Mu Jingfeng revealed such an expression of great bitterness and hatred toward her, she didn't have much of a reaction. What was there to be angry about? If she got angry with him, wouldn't it be hurting her own body? In any case, she had long lost all feelings for this person. If they met again, they would just be strangers. However, now that Mu Jingfeng once again stood on the opposite side of her and Lien, then she was sorry. Arbor took out a black ferrule and indifferently stared at Mu Jingfeng in front of her. Mu Jingfeng, since you've appeared, then let's settle the scores from before. Unfilial daughter. Mu Jingfeng angrily pointed at Arbor and sternly shouted, "You unfilial daughter! You're already so vicious and merciless to your father. It can be seen that you don't have the slightest bit of compassion for others. You clearly have the sacred medicine in your hands, yet you aren't willing to contribute it to save the common people. You unfilial daughter, unfilial daughter. Why do I, Mu Jingfeng, have a daughter like you? Then I'm really sorry." Arbor abruptly raised his ferrule and slammed it down with a fiery light. "Mother had no choice but to choose a useless old thing like you. I also feel very regretful." "You dare." Mu Jingfeng raised an arm, and a godly armor appeared on it. He stretched out his leg and took a step forward, blocking the sudden line of fire. He gritted his teeth, and a large amount of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. This little girl, after not seeing her for so long, it seemed like her cultivation had improved quite a bit. "Mu Jingfeng, are you alone? How big of a deal do you think you can accomplish? Tianyun is too unfilial, isn't he? He let you risk your life alone, yet he didn't give you the corresponding manpower," Arbor coldly said. "Do you know? If you forcefully stick your head out, you'll lose your life." Mu Jingfeng couldn't help but shudder. "Disgraceful thing, you actually dare to speak to your own father like that." Chapter 52-48. At the same time, old Master Mu, who had received the news, rushed to Changle Street with a group of clansmen. When he saw Mu Jingfeng, old Master Mu could not help but be stunned. Back then, Mu Jingfeng had failed to create chaos and left in a sorry state. Old Master Mu and the rest had all witnessed it with their own eyes. But now, his body was actually fine, and he was able to stand here in such high spirits. This was truly shocking. No one knew what was going on with this Mu Jingfeng. Old Master Mu's face darkened, and he could not help but shout angrily, "Jingfeng, do you really want to take this path? Becoming enemies with the family and his own daughter's life and death enemy." Mu Jingfeng turned to look at old Master Mu. "Father, I've long had no way out." Fifth Uncle Mu Jingyang stomped his feet in irritation. "Mu Jingfeng, you've let down the entire Mu family. For your own selfish desires, you opened the Mu family's doors to Tianyun. Not only did you bring people to the Mu family to plunder talismans, you even want to kill your own daughter and family. You're simply insane beyond words. Eldest uncle, if you still have a bit of conscience, quickly turn back." Mu Wuzi, who was standing beside his father, also spoke up. Mu Jingfeng could not help but laugh out loud. "Ha ha ha! What a pretentious act of hypocrisy. Turn back? Do you think I can still turn back at this time? Let me tell you people, if I, Mu Jingfeng, weren't forced by you all, would I have walked on this path of no return? Every single one of you here has a part in forcing me onto this path of no return." He shouted angrily, his old face flushed red. "It's all your fault." Arbor could not help but roll his eyes. "Why are you all talking so much nonsense with him? This kind of person will push the blame to others no matter what he does. He's a reasonable person, and he always feels that he's not in the wrong. Jingfeng, you've disappointed me too much." Old Master Mu shook his head and slowly closed his eyes. Mu Jingfeng sneered. "Don't change the topic. What are you talking about? Shouldn't you be talking about my good daughter now?" "That's right." A few shills in the crowd spoke up again. The crown princess, for her own selfish desires, did not contribute the sacred medicine to the 3 continents. She is truly too selfish and heartless. We can't let such a person become our crown princess. Yes, We can't let her continue to be the crown princess and the future empress of the divine land. Right. From beginning to end, there were only a few scattered voices in the crowd, adding fuel to the fire and stirring up the crowd's emotions. However, the crowd was hesitant. They looked at each other and then at the crown prince and the old concubine. These two were not people to be trifled with. If they could avoid provoking them, no one in the crowd wanted to court death by provoking these two people. It was just that the allure of sacred medicine was still too great. Among the crowd, there were also a few hot-blooded youths who were encouraged by a few supporters and started shouting, "The crown princess should hand over the sacred medicine. Yes, hand it over. Hand over the sacred medicine so that we can benefit the commoners." Qi Xianxian was so angry that she roared, "Benefit, you bunch of repulsive people? You might as well feed it to pigs." "What did you say?" A few youths angrily glared at Qi Xianxian, looking like they wanted to fight at the slightest disagreement. Qi Xianxian suddenly flung her cloak to the ground and hooked her finger at those red-browed and green-eyed youths. Chapter 52-49. Come at me, weaklings. As long as you can take 3 moves from me, I'll immediately kneel and kowtow to you to apologize. How could the youths endure such provocation? They immediately jumped out in anger and threw a few punches at Qi Xianxian at the same time. Little Fatty was enraged when he saw this. These people actually dared to gang up on his wife. Did they eat tigers, wolves, and leopards' guts? Or were they too happy living and tired of living? Daring to hit his wife, just wait for death. Little Fatty's hand moved, and a fierce double-headed hammer appeared in his palm. He swept it across and mercilessly sent 2 of the youths flying. They were the ones who made the first move, so don't blame him for being merciless. Mu Xiaoxue was protected by Qin grass as she retreated a few steps, her face full of fear. The instant the crown prince made his move, she genuinely felt a sense of impending death assaulting her. She was almost killed by the crown prince's tyrannical power. Almost, just a little bit more. Fortunately, Mu Jingfeng came out to protect her, and only then was she able to hang on to her life. The more it was like this, the more she hated her powerlessness to resist. Why did everyone treat her like this, treating her like she was the mud under the roof that could be exposed and stepped on as they pleased? She, Mu Xiaoxue, was born with such an unlucky life. Why did everyone have cultivation but she didn't? The more she thought about it, the more she hated and raged. Mu Xiaoxue secretly gritted her teeth and tightly clenched her fists. There would be a day when she would rise up. There would be a day when she would trample all these people who looked down on her beneath her feet. Set up the formation. Old man Mu angrily shouted and turned to nod at Arbor. Let the Mu family deal with Mu Jingfeng. Jojo, do your thing. Arbor grunted, but his gaze would occasionally follow the Mu family's people. These people set up a formation to deal with Mu Jingfeng, but it was more than enough. After watching for a while, Arbor retracted his gaze and turned to look at Qi Xuanxuan's group, who were ganging up on the youths. Originally, those few youths wanted to beat up Qi Xianxian, but in the end they were beaten up by Little Fatty and Lu Yu instead. It was truly pitiful to not have a brain. Qiao Mu shook her head speechlessly. Mo Lian took a step forward and said to the people who were looking at each other, "Don't be instigated by people with ulterior motives. Jojo doesn't have any sacred medicine. However, what I can tell you is that the crown princess has always been in a place you can't see, silently working hard to develop an antidote for the corpse poison. As for the antidote, we've already made some progress. The crown princess subordinates, Fairy Yellow Crane and the others, have already successfully produced the 2nd stage of the antidote. It can be combined with the medicinal power of a high-level pharmacist to prolong the duration of the corpse poison's outbreak. In other words, even if you're bitten by a corpse puppet or accidentally get hit, you won't be incurable in the future. This kind of antidote can work with the medicinal power to delay the time it takes for you to turn into a zombie. It can be extended for 3 years at most. Moreover, this prince believes that within 3 years, your crown princess will definitely lead her team to develop a true antidote. The matter of the antidote will be announced in the Heavenly Pill Hall within 3 days. At that time, you can go and find out for yourselves. It'll be clear at a glance who's right and who's wrong. Everyone couldn't help but become agitated when they heard this. In their impression, His Highness the Crown Prince was very aloof and arrogant. How could he explain so much nonsense to the commoners? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.